Hey, everybody. Can I get a thumbs up that you can all hear me okay? I go to my audio settings, make sure everything's good. Can everyone hear me okay? Sounds good. So, this was a little bit last minute impromptu. I decided had some time to do this. And you'll notice that the title here of the stream is not open challenge or open debate, it's open dialogue. Okay. Want me to laugh? Okay. Um, it's an open dialogue. I want to hear the answers and I want to have a discussion about it. I'm going to post a link in the chat and pin it. This is for anyone that disagrees and thinks that Jesus is not God because he can't be according to the Bible, or according to the Tanakh, rather, more specifically. So I'm going to put that link here and see if I can pin it. One sec. Can you all see that? So, how's everyone doing tonight? Until we get somebody to come on and talk to me about this subject. Does anyone have any questions? Reformed Catholic Noahide. Who's that? Okay. Lean toward Reformed theology. There's only one Holy Catholic Church. I'm a gentle believer in the God of Israel. Okay. Why Noahide then in your name? What does Noahide mean to you? Okay, in the meantime, while we're waiting, does anyone have any questions? Do you think the Masoretic text is more accurate than the Septuagint? No, I've never thought the Masoretic text is more accurate than the Septuagint. I just think that any claims that could be used to undermine one could be used to undermine the other, and we need to look at the whole context of what's manuscripts and traditions are available to us to get an accurate picture of what the text actually says. The very first thing, and I'll probably have to do a video on this at some point to explain, was blatant hypocrisy from supposedly very religious people, which led to a lot of questioning. And then the straw that broke the camel's back was the very loose attitude towards abortion in the Jewish community. As well as Deuteronomy 13. Okay. We can have a discussion about that. Do you want to come up and talk? I know Yehuda is a busy man. I'm not going to insist he does, but he can if he wants to. No takers yet? Well, why don't you, I can't kiss my own rear. That's not possible. Yep, I know that you have prior engagements, and I don't hold it against you, man. No worries. So why don't you come up and talk about it? It's for an open dialogue. Nobody's name calling. Nobody's hurting each other. We're just having a dialogue. No? Come on, guys. I don't bite. I'm not that scary. Okay. Shaul. Give me 1 second here, Shaul. Hey, Shaul, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Can everyone hear Shaul? I'm first time using this with guests. Can everyone hear Shaul? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear Shaul.
I can hear you.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I just want to hear if anyone else in the stream can hear you, because I have it set so that your audio only is enabled. Yes, everyone can hear you. Okay. How's it going, man? Thank you for actually coming in.
Definitely. I appreciate you having me.
Shalom Aleichem, as they say.
Aleichem shalom. So the question is, why can't Jesus be God?
Yep.
Right? And from a Jewish perspective, from a perspective of what I would say the sages, I think that the question can be misleading to most, because it's not that we would say he wasn't God or a god, right? We believe that he is worshipped as a god, but he's not in the secret of the God that the Jews worship, which is Hashem. Okay. We, in the secrets of our sages, they reveal to us whom Yaakov Avinu was wrestling with. And who was that?
Who was wrestling with Yaakov Avinu?
Yeah, who was wrestling with Yaakov Avinu?
The man, as it says, who we know in some traditions is an angel, and in some traditions is part of the Trinity, is God. It depends who you ask.
Thank you for saying that. According to the sages, we say that was the Samech Mem, the guardian angel of Esav, otherwise known as the God of Esav. Okay?
Why do you think it's the God of Esav?
Because the Samech Mem is the God of Esav.
But why do you think that, according to the Tanakh, that gives us any indication that it's the guardian angel of Esav?
For one, I stick to the interpretations of the sages before I make my own interpretation, right? So my interpretation is, this isn't what I'm coming to, this is what our sages have given us and we are receiving, which is the secret of how our traditions are given to us, right? So we can get into textual, analysis and see how this is derived from this. We can even read how the sages say such and this, right? But the view amongst the
Can I just interrupt just to ask, what is the source in the text that the sages derive from it the idea that it's the guardian angel of Esav?
The sages tell us that he looked exactly like Esav, okay? And because he looked exactly like Esav, this was the angel of Esav. All right. So with this, does that make any sense, or do you want to continue on that part?
No, I'm just I was just wondering where you're getting that from in the text. Does it say anywhere in the text that it's the angel of Esav?
No, it doesn't say it's Jesus either. Correct. By the face value of the text.
Right.
By the
Correct.
It doesn't say.
Correct.
It's maybe Elohim. It's maybe a man, right? And then from the oral
Yehuda has the source for us here. Thank you, for Yehuda, for being quick with that. Look at that. Let me pull that up here. Genesis 33:10. Okay. So what Yehuda did was he pulled up the verse of Jacob meeting Esav.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, but the term used there is Elohim, which can be a lot of different things in a lot of different contexts. Okay,
Correct.
right.
So in
But
Hebrew,
it
there
doesn't
is
say.
different.
But we can all agree that it doesn't say anything about the angel being the angel of Esav, right? So we just have Yaakov using a generic term for looking like a term that we use for all kinds of figures throughout the Bible. Okay, cool.
Okay, so the point behind this was there are different names by which God is called in the Bible. Okay, and the name Elohim, which is the name that you derived from right there, which is exactly the name used, is used multiple times throughout the Bible for different for humans, for
Right,
angels, for God Himself, even. And
right.
so this name,
I see no connection between the two there, but that's okay. Yeah.
yeah. So inside of how we would consider Jesus, we would consider him to be corresponding to the name of Elohim, okay, which is the force of Esav, which is corresponding to the judgment aspect of what Esav has to deal with.
So
So,
can I just ask to clarify it to this point?
hmm
Are you saying that you believe that Jesus,
hmm
as described in the New Testament and later in rabbinic literature, is a divine being like an angel of God?
I'm saying that according to the interpretations of the Jewish sages, Jesus would be considered Elohim, a god of the nation.
Which Jewish sages say that about Jesus?
There are sages such as Ramchal, Rav Moshe David Vali. There are sages such as, well, it's an anonymous source, but Shoshan Yasoda Olam, that directly corresponds Yeshu to the angel Samech Mem. This is common amongst the Kabbalah, that Jesus is corresponding to Esav, the angel of Esav. They tell us that if you get the name Esav, when it's spelled with a Yud, it can be permutated to
No,
the
so I'm asking. So this is all well and good to explain like the angels in the Tanakh and the ideas of who the angel that Esav meets and
yes,
so on.
yes.
What sage in all of Jewish history says that Jesus is a divine being like the angel of Esav?
They consider him to be Elohim.
Who can you name one or tell me?
Ramchal, Rav Vali,
Makes
all
reference to Jesus.
Emech HaMelech from Rav Naftali, okay, they consider Jesus to be the Samech Mem. They say that that whenever the
Okay,
Samech
I want to just slow down for a second. Any one of those sages, do they name Jesus and say that he is a divine creature, like an
they
angel of
say that
Esav?
he's the secret of Elohim, okay?
They
If
refer to
you
Jesus.
yes, he's the secret
Who?
of the Samech Mem,
Who? Can you point? Can you
okay?
give me a source for that?
Yes, Ramchal in his Kenat Hashem Sevaot, or in Rob Moshe David Vali's Likutim. You can go in there, and he talks about Yeshu being in the secret of Samek Mem.
What's his name? Rav Moshe David.
Vali. So perhaps you can look this up after this.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a very common idea.
So essentially
amongst
you're giving
Judaism.
me, but essentially we're looking at 13th through 17th century rabbinic sources to decide who Jesus was.
No, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's the only sources that you're quoting me. You're saying there's nothing
No,
earlier than that.
no, you're. I'm telling you what I'm saying, and then you're asking me, well, if there's anything earlier, and I started quoting by where these sages got these information, which was from the Torah. For instance, let me ask you something. When Joseph was in Egypt, Okay. And whenever the brothers came into Egypt, he got 5 of his brothers, and he told them to tell Pharaoh that they were shepherds. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah.
And he says that they're an abomination to the Egyptians. Right? What does that mean?
No, enlighten me.
Does the abomination, does it mean that the Egyptians don't like the shepherds, or that the shepherds, that they like the shepherds?
I don't know. Enlighten me.
Okay, so when the Bible speaks about the abomination of the Egyptians, he refers to it as the God of the Egyptians. Okay? As whenever we speak about the abomination of the nations, it's speaking about the gods of the nations. Okay? Whenever Joseph told his brothers to say that you're shepherds for their abomination of the Egyptians, it was not to make them disgraced by the Egyptians. It was to have them inherit the choicest land of Ramses, okay, where
Right.
all of their religion was set up. So you want to know what Joseph told them? He said, say you're shepherds, because they will look at you like you're divine, because they will look at you as if you are the idol itself. Okay?
So I'm still having a trouble understanding something.
Mm-hmm.
Where before the Ramchal, for example, do we have any source that says that Jews thought that Jesus was a divine creature of some kind?
Listen, when we say the name Elohim, okay, Elohim is something divinely appointed, okay, and it turns the term Elohut. You know what the term Elohut meaning divinity, okay? The term Elohim
Elokut, yeah.
does mean divine. Anytime somebody's called, in for instance, we call our Kabbalists the Elohi, the divine Tana, okay? We believe that certain men are divine through the secret of Elohim by taking Elohut, divinity, okay? And so when we use these there's different names for Hashem in the Bible. There's Elohim, there's Shaddai, there's Yud
Right.
Kevavke, there's all these different names, okay? When you ask a term, can Jesus be God or this, that, and the other?
So we've gone on a long tangent here of whether or not Jesus could be a divine being of sorts and whether or not it's a misleading question. So let me clarify. The Christian claim is that Jesus is God, not a God, not a divine creature, but God. Okay? The God of
We're talking
Israel.
about for Jews here.
I'm asking why, as a Jew,
hmm
you would say that Jesus cannot be that God that Christians claim.
I say he is the God that the Christians worship, and he's the secret of Elohim.
No, Christians say that Jesus is the God of Israel, as described wherever the God of Israel is described. Why can't he be that according to Judaism, according to Jews, rather, according to the Tanakh?
Because he was not Hashem, Yud Kevavke.
So
Right?
why not? Can you explain why that is not the case?
Because he didn't reveal the consistent message that Yud Kevavke was going to be doing, which was, i.e., gathering the lost sheep of the house of Israel. He
Hold on a
wasn't
second.
here.
We're not asking if he fits certain messianic prophecies yet. We can get to that.
Mhm.
Why can it not be that Jesus is God?
Is Yud Kevavke.
Yeah.
Or Elohim. Which one do you mean?
Well, you're making distinctions here that
There
the
are
Bible doesn't make
distinctions
for
in
that
the
purpose.
Bible. The Bible does make
Right.
distinctions between the name
Right.
Elohim and the name Yud Kevavke.
But when God is referred to as Elohim, when the God of Israel is referred to as Elohim, it's still referring to the same
No, the God
being.
of Israel is Yud Kevavke.
Right, but he's also called Elohim.
No, he's called Yud Kevavke Elohim.
Okay, so can I clarify something?
Yeah.
Just so I understand where you're coming
It's
from here.
Huha Elohim.
Are you an Orthodox Jew?
I'm a practicing Jew, yes. I'm an observant Jew.
An observant Jew in what would be considered Orthodox Judaism?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
So you think that there's a distinction, a literal distinction, not an allegorical distinction, between God when God is called Elohim and when God is
Yes.
called Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh.
Yes, everything in the Bible is perfect, and when it says something, it means something.
So in your view, as an Orthodox Jew, there are distinct aspects of God that are separate from each other.
They're not separate from each other. They
So-
represent different things. The aim Elohim is not necessarily God itself. It's a title that people obtain.
Okay.
It is a title that people obtain. Elohim is a title that people obtain.
So when I'm asking you if Jesus could be the God of Israel, you're referencing a specific being that takes all. Hold on a second. When I'm asking you if Jesus could be the God of Israel, you're using the referent. And when I'm asking you if who the God of Israel is according to Judaism, you're using titles to distinguish so that we don't ever settle on who it is.
No, I'm using the actual thing that it says. Yud Ke Vav Ke is the God of Israel. Elohim by
Right.
itself is not the God of Israel.
So
You understand that?
So the being of God, who is Yud He Vav He,
Yes.
is the referent, and sometimes he's called by his name, Yud He Vav He, and sometimes he's called Elohim.
Okay,
But Elohim can mean other things, but when it's used
a
for
title.
him, it refers to the same person.
It's like when a person takes on the position of a president. So there can be people who are in a divine position of authority who are working direct by the will of Kuchabrihu, of the Holy One, blessed be He. And there could be people who are outside of the will of Kuchabrihu, working outside of him, and they could be using in the secret of Elohim too. Elohim is a title. Okay, it's used many different times.
So let's put it in the example that you gave. So Donald Trump is the president of the United States, which is a specific office, right?
Okay.
So we're referring to the office of the president of the United States. There are other people called president also sometimes. But when we say president, when we say Mr. President to Donald Trump, we are only ever referring to Donald Trump, correct?
We're only referring to Donald Trump.
When
yes.
somebody looks at Donald Trump and says Mr. President, the term president could mean somebody else also in a different context. But in this case, Mr. President means Donald Trump.
Because he's in the title, yes. Yes.
No, because he's the referent of the statement.
So
it doesn't matter what the title is.
Yud Ke Vav Ke is the God of Israel. Do we agree?
Okay. When somebody who doesn't know anything about Tanakh or doesn't know about Judaism or Christianity or Islam or anything else.
We're talking about Jews here. I got
Hold on a second. Hold on a second. When somebody who doesn't know anything, they acknowledge that there's a creator of the world. They go, oh, wow, there must be a creator of all this. And they go, I want to praise that creator. Who are they praising?
Their imagination, their thoughts.
What are you talking about? So they're not praising the God who created it. They're praising someone else?
The God of Israel has a direct relationship with Israel, like a marriage between a man and a wife. Okay?
Does that change the fact that when somebody goes, I really love the being that created all of this, are they referring to a different being?
What do you mean?
Okay. If your car is broken and I come and repair it in the middle of the night, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know who fixed it, but you go, wow, somebody fixed my car. God bless that person. Thank you. Are you thanking me?
If I'm the person thanking God, no. I'm trying to follow your line of reasoning, but I want to stick to the point.
We can't get to the point because we're not agreeing on basic facts of reality here.
No, we're not. So the God of Israel is Yud Ke Vav Ke, and the other gods are also called Elohim too. Okay, Elohim.
What other gods? Are there real other gods?
For Elohim. They're mamish called other gods.
Right, but are they real other gods, or are they things that people worship that
they
are
fake?
Fake?
Ministers. They're called Sarim that are in the position that they've been appointed to, and they've taken the title Elohim.
So there are other beings that are gods that are not the God of Israel.
Sarim. They're not Yud Ke Vav Ke. They're Elohim. Do you understand?
So you acknowledge a pantheon of multiple gods?
No, I acknowledge the Torah.
Okay, so you're playing word games now, because what you just acknowledged was a pantheon of multiple gods according to the Torah.
What I just acknowledged is what the Torah says.
So according to you, your interpretation of the Torah, that there's a pantheon of multiple gods. There are some that are not the God of Israel, and then there's one that's the God of Israel.
There are multiple beings that are called Elohim, and there's only one being called Yud Ke Vav Ke.
So you're coming on here telling me that I'm the one changing the topic from Judaism, but you're the one who's saying you're an Orthodox Jew and you're not.
I don't know why you just said that.
Because you acknowledge a pantheon of multiple gods in Orthodox Judaism.
I said there are beings that are called Elohim, and there's one God.
So you're a polytheist.
No, I'm believing Yud Ke Vav Ke. Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Right, as your God, and then other people have other gods.
Yes, that's exactly what the Bible says. There are other gods of the nations.
Okay, so you're polytheist.
Let me ask you this: even in your writings, Paul says there's the God of this world. There's different gods in the secret of Elohim.
So you're a polytheist. Can we get that acknowledged first?
The Torah.
Right, but according to you, the Torah is polytheistic.
You're trying to define me by the ways of the nations, but it won't work because I don't think you know the difference between Yud Ke Vav Ke and Elohim.
You just said that according to you, in your opinion, the Torah affirms multiple gods outside of the God of
Torah
Israel as well.
affirms that other people and beings are called Elohim, not other beings are
Right,
called
but
Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh.
there's human beings that are called Elohim also.
Yes, but there's not for Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh.
Right, but there are other people, humans in the Torah that are called Elohim as well. So that doesn't
Yes.
mean that they're gods, but you just
It means
affirmed
that
gods
that's
of other
the
nations.
interpretation of Elohim is divine. Okay, when we call our Kabbalists and our sages Eloki, we literally are saying he is a divine Tana.
So you're
Okay?
a polytheist. Okay.
No, it's not a polytheist. We believe in Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh. The point about this is
You
saying
just said there's other gods in other
no,
nations.
there's Elohim.
There's other Elohims in other nations that are gods. That's what you just said.
This is what the text tells us.
Okay. This is a live stream, like everyone heard you say it.
Yeah, listen, you don't know the difference between Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh and Elohim. And I think that's a big...
Yud-Heh-Vav-Heh is the name of the God of Israel. Elohim is a title that can refer to the God of Israel or can refer to a whole bunch of other stuff.
Else. Exactly. So it sounds...
No, not anybody else. Not anybody else, but a whole bunch of other things.
Other entities can be called Elohim too.
Right. Not your Kabbalist, though.
That's what we call him. We call him divine Elohim. We call
Yehuda Yisrael, you're watching. So can I get a comment from Yehuda in the comments? So did you know this guy was a polytheist when it started? I could have seen it going there from the beginning, but
a polytheist, you're using these terms like that's inside the Bible too. Is monotheism in the Bible?
The fact that the term doesn't exist in the Bible doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So you've just refuted all of Judaism. So now not only are you a polytheist, but you also refute anything that exists in Orthodox Judaism.
I've told you what I've said, and you've taken your own interpretations and said
the word polytheist means somebody.
The word Elohim.
So polytheist. So polytheist means somebody that worships or believes in multiple gods. Yeah. Which you do. So you're a polytheist, whether it exists as a term in the Bible or not.
That's not the case at all. And this is coming from somebody who's trying to posture that Jesus was the God of Israel. That's not true at all. What I'm coming to say is there's a difference between Elohim and Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh. And I think that's
on, man, don't do that. You know that he's affirming polytheism. Come on.
No. There's a difference between Elohim and Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh. And if you should know this. Okay, especially when you're trying
the question is this. I'll get back to it. Even though you're a polytheist and you lied about what your background is and what you're coming here to debate, I'll give you another chance here. According to Orthodox Judaism, according to the Jewish view, if you're reading the Tanakh, be the God of Israel. Why couldn't he be? I'm not asking for proof if he is or isn't. I'm not saying that the proof is good or bad. Why couldn't he be?
Because he's not Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh.
Let me do this for a second, just so. Does anyone think for a second this guy is an Orthodox Jew? Come on. Oh my God. Oh wow. Come on, just look. Come on. Everyone can see.
Okay. I don't think you understand the difference between Elohim and Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh, and I think that's why you're coming to
attacks. You came on here pretending to be an
attacks because you
I wanted to have no, it's not a personal attack. It's not an ad hominem argument to dismiss a point.
You've started lying. You said that I've lied. I haven't lied once in this stream. I've told you that there's a difference between Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh and Elohim. And you've decided to
give me a second here to explain. Give me a second here.
Terms that you've
give me a second here. I want to have an honest dialogue with Orthodox Jews about this topic. You came on pretending to be an Orthodox Jew. So all the rest of the conversation is kind of me catering to you being dishonest.
Wow.
Why would anyone take what you're saying seriously? You haven't answered the question that's the topic of conversation, and you came on dishonest about who you are.
Wow.
So can you explain to me now why Jesus, according to the Tanakh, could not be the God of Israel?
I'm trying to figure out where am I muted? I've said it multiple times now.
You're not
Jesus
muted, no.
is not.
Now you're accusing me of muting you?
He has never said he was Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh, and this is where you're not understanding. You keep saying
I didn't ask you if Jesus said he's Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh or not. I asked you why couldn't he be, according to the Tanakh.
Why couldn't Jesus be Yud-Keh-Vav-Keh? Because the Jews have never worshipped Jesus. We didn't
I'm a
get
Jew.
a
I'm a Jew who worships Jesus.
Moses did not
All the
receive the
first apostles
Torah.
were Jews who worshiped
Moses
Jesus.
did
All the
not
early
rec-
Christians were Jews who worshiped Jesus.
Moses did not
What are you
receive the
talking about?
Torah from Jesus.
Hold on a second. What do you mean Jews never worshiped Jesus? All the early Christians were Jews. It was a Jewish sect.
But that
Even if you
doesn't mean that-
disagree,
it doesn't mean that the
hold on,
nation
hold on,
the nation did
hold on,
not
hold on a
worship.
second. Hold on a second. Hold
The
on a
nation
second.
did not receive the Torah from
Even,
Jesus.
even I didn't ask you who they received the Torah from. I asked why couldn't he be the one they received the Torah from? You're going in a circle.
No, because
You're-
he
you're
wasn't
using-
there. Because
you're-
he didn't say, "Hey, I'm Jesus giving you the Torah." Why
You're
are you saying?
you're
Why are you
saying-
saying why? he
You're
couldn't be? I'm
saying
telling you,
because I
Moses
don't
did not
believe,
receive.
you're saying because I don't believe he's the one that gave the Torah, therefore he can't be the one that gave the Torah.
No, I'm saying Yud Ke Vav Ke gave the Torah, not Jesus. That's what the text says.
Right.
You're asking
So-
me why can't it be Jesus? 'Cause it
So
doesn't
I'll
say
give you
Jesus.
again. So the Christian faith is that Jesus
What?
is the Christian. This is the
Yeah.
question at hand here.
Yeah.
The Christian faith posits that Jesus is the God of Israel. Why can't he be, according to the Tanakh?
Because the Tanakh tells us that Yud Ke Vav Ke is the God of Israel.
The claim of Christianity is that Jesus is Yud He Vav He.
Where does it say that?
That's the claim of Christianity.
Where does it say?
All of church tradition, all of
Okay,
Christianity,
well, I'm telling you, he can't be that.
all of the
because
church
Yud
fathers,
Ke
all of
Vav Ke,
Christianity, all of the Christian world, every church that's a Trinitarian
For
church.
one, it doesn't say at one time in any supposed writings of his. It doesn't say that he one time claims to be.
What
Yud Ke Vav
writings
Ke.
of Jesus are there?
There are none. There are none. Or
So
any
what,
of the.
so
Any
what
of the words-
writings? So what writings of his are they supposed to exist in?
Any of the words of the New Testament, none of them claim that he's Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Yeah, they did. He said,
No.
I am the Alpha and the Omega, which is a
That's
title
Greek.
of God.
No, that's Greek. That has
Right.
nothing to do with Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Yeah, there's no Hebrew term for that.
No, et Aleph to Tav.
Hold
That
on a
doesn't
second.
mean Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Hold on a second. There's no Hebrew term for the first and the last.
I just said et, but that's not.
Hold
Yud
on a
Ke
second.
Vav Ke.
There's nothing in the Hebrew Bible that says God is the first and the
Yes,
last.
he says I'm the first and the last.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
So it's
He
translated
doesn't
into
mean
Greek,
he's the
so therefore
first
it
and
goes
last
out.
of the Greek
So therefore,
alphabet.
hold on a second. So therefore it disappears because it's translated. So
But
you're speaking English right now. How can
nowhere
you say
does it say
how can you
he's
say
Yud Ke
anything
Vav
about the
Ke.
Torah? Start speaking Hebrew, and then we can talk about the Torah.
Nowhere does he say
אתה
anything
מדבר
about
עברית?
Yud Ke Vav Ke.
אתה מדבר עברית בכלל?
Nowhere does it say he's Yud Ke Vav Ke. Nowhere. Name one time does it say
So-
Jesus said he was Yud Ke Vav Ke.
Do you know modern Hebrew? Do you know biblical Hebrew? Anything?
Name one place that
You
it
just
says,
said that the translation into Greek invalidates it.
No, I'm telling you, not one place. Not I am the last and I'm not the first and the last does not say he's Yud Ke Vav Ke.
So according to you, if a being or a person in a text that's being described does things that God does, says things that God says, and uses titles of God, that wouldn't be an indicator that they're referring to
If
themselves as
he
God?
he didn't say he was Yud Ke Vav Ke. Okay, I've been trying to tell you this whole time. There's a difference in Yud Ke Vav Ke.
So
and
this
Elohim.
goes back to you believing in multiple gods. So he could claim to
No.
be God-like and not be the God of Israel.
Absolutely not.
This is the
He's
problem
not
with you
the
being a
God of Israel,
polytheist.
for one, he never claimed
This
to be
is the
God of
problem with
Israel.
you being a polytheist. We're having a different
Absolutely not.
conversation.
I'm glad you can throw insults, but I'm trying to be very strict.
Why is it an insult?
I'm telling you
You just
that-
called yourself a polytheist. You said, I
No,
believe
I'm
that there are
telling you there's a
multiple gods of
difference
different
between
nations.
Yud Ke Vav Ke and Elohim.
Can I ask you a different question?
No.
No, you
This
don't
is
ask.
it. This is it.
Can I ask you a different question? Okay, well, that was fruitful. So somebody came on, lied about being an Orthodox Jew, thinks that translating something into a different language means that the point can't be made, referred to multiple gods of other nations being real gods other than the God of Israel, while claiming to believe in the Torah. Does anyone else want to come on and actually discuss the topic of that's up for discussion? Let me see. Somebody sent some super chats here. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much. From Menace Blue, if Messiah Mashiach was prophesied by the prophets, but they contradict previous laws in the Bible, does that make the prophecy invalid along with the prophet? Why believe in the Messiah then? So the common straw man argument is that Jesus is a false prophet, but the claim of Christianity is not that Jesus is a prophet. The claim of Christianity is that Jesus is God. So just like God progressively reveals things throughout the Tanakh, right? One covenant with Abraham, different things he says to different people along the way. It grows, it builds. Then there's a covenant with Israel, and things change as time goes on. And there's obviously things being revealed differently at different times. The claim of Christianity is that is the culmination of that revelation. So the claim is not that Jesus is a prophet. So thank you for that question. That's a good intro to talking about that. And then, good job, Ash. May God bless the work of your hands. Thank you so much. Okay, is anyone else? Is anyone else on that wants to come on? No, I got that. I understood. Thank you for the chat. I was saying it a little bit too excitedly. Sorry. Yeah, Jesus is a lot of things according to the New Testament. Hi there, how's it going?
היי, מה קורה?
מה נשמע?
בסדר.
אבל אף אחד פה לא מדבר עברית, אז נעבור גם לאנגלית.
יש בעיה, כן, אוקיי.
יש בעיה. רגע, אתה בארץ?
לא, אני לא בארץ.
אוקיי.
אני בארצות הברית.
Okay. So how's it going?
Good, thank God.
Are you an Orthodox Jew?
I was raised Orthodox.
Okay,
yeah.
Let me. Is it okay if I bring you on with camera?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Yeah. But,
all right.
Yeah.
No worries.
Yeah. So, what was the question? Was why can't Jesus be the God of Israel? I'm going to expand here. Why can't Jesus be God? When I say God, I mean the God of Israel, the only God. So the guy before didn't understand that when I said God, I meant the only God. Right. It seems like he was a monolatrist, which is like he believes that the God of the Jews is the top God, and then there's other gods as well. So, okay. But I don't think that's the position of the Torah.
I don't think that's the position of the Torah. I don't think that's the position of any Jews in the world, except for small individuals, one-offs here.
Right. There is one position of the Rambam, I think, that says that the reason that it says you should have no other gods before me is that the Jews at that time believed in other gods, and they had to be weaned off of that until they accepted monotheism. But it never took the gods as real.
Right.
So, but okay, so go ahead with your question. Sorry.
So according to the Tanakh, or just in general, in your opinion, why couldn't Jesus be God?
Why couldn't he? I would say, according to strict Tanakh, he could be, but in regard to a Jew being a Christian, the only issue would be that he wouldn't practice halakha. So, for example, if a Jew believed that Jesus was God, fine, believe whatever you want. There's dogmas in Judaism, but practice halakha.
Okay.
Because because if you're going to say that Jesus can't be God, it's really tenuous ground, because you have the Kabbalists and you have the, like the Ravash says, oh, the Christians have 3, the Kabbalists have 10. So like that still falls within normative Judaism. So it's not really the belief, it's the lack of practice. Because if the Kabbalists didn't practice halakha, they would not be in Judaism. So
the problem there, and I'm only going to briefly get into this because it isn't really the topic for the conversation, but if Jesus is in fact God, tells his apostles that he's going to send the Holy Spirit to guide them, right? And that he's entering the new covenant with them. And then from there, we get the writings of those specific apostles telling us how to follow his practices. Then following what they have determined is the fulfillment of it in those writings inspired by the Holy Spirit would mean that people practicing Christianity are practicing what's in accordance with the God of Israel. But you'd have to go through those steps there. So the first thing would
Right.
be, could Jesus be
And
God? And you're saying he could be
I
from
mean,
a
yeah,
strictly
sure.
Tanakh perspective.
That you could believe he is, yeah. And in fact, because there are definitely Rishonim and Tanaim and whatever so forth who believe that God could have physical form. I mean, you could see that in Rashi even,
Right.
but they still have to follow halacha. So then you have to explain why the eternal covenant, like even a prophet can't change the Torah. So you would have to take many steps to figure out how you abrogate all the halacha.
So can I
So,
ask you something about that? And you're being very respectful and pleasant about it. And so I'm gonna go here with the conversation. So can I ask you where in the book of Genesis God tells Abraham that he's going to make a different covenant later on with his descendants at Sinai?
I don't recall. I can't. I don't have a chumash in front of me, and
So if
I don't know if I
God
have.
can give all these blessings and things to Abraham and have one thing that he's telling him about the way things are going to be, but then with his descendants, when he takes them out of Egypt, he gives them a different covenant essentially of things on Sinai.
Okay.
Would you say that God is lying to Abraham, where he's changing his rules?
No, he's not lying. He made a covenant with Abraham, and then he made a covenant with the nation of Israel,
Right, but he made all
children of
kinds of
Israel.
promises to Abraham that are not reliant on a covenant at Sinai, and then a lot of those promises become dependent on fulfillment of Torah at Sinai.
Can you give me an example?
Like being numerous, and they're coming into the land of Israel, and all the stuff that if we're taking the covenant with Abraham at, we should be in Israel with no issues, whether Torah or no Torah. Right, that's the promise made to Abraham for his children. But he doesn't ever tell him that he's going to give them a Torah at Sinai.
You're saying he told Abraham that his children would inherit the land.
Unless you think the blessing is going to the Muslims.
No,
I
I
know
don't
that.
think that. Okay. So you're saying he told Abraham that he would get a blessing, but not that it was contingent.
Right, exactly. And then furthermore, even if you have a thing where he says this is the law of the covenant, but then there's all these kinds of conditions attached to it. So, for example, if I gave you a car, a really, really nice brand new car, and I say this car is yours and you can keep it forever, but I have a condition for you. In order to keep this car, you have to wash it every week, you have to change the oil when it's due, you have to keep the interior clean, and you can't drive it on these and these roads where I know it's going to get damaged.
Right.
And 6 weeks later, I see you driving on those roads, the car's filthy and it's, headlight is knocked out. And I go to you and I say, you broke all the rules that I just gave you. Okay.
Right.
But you know what? I'll give you another chance. Keep the car, wash it up, follow the rules. And then
Okay.
6 weeks later, I see the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then again and again and again. And then eventually I say, you know what? You don't get to keep the car. And I take it away.
Okay.
When
Okay.
I told you you can keep the car forever and then I took it away, did I break my promise to you?
Right, but I mean, as far as I understand, the covenant is eternal.
Right, but
It's
eternal,
Brit
and then there's
Le'olam.
all kinds of conditions. So if Israel as a whole committed idol worship so that everyone's idolatrous, we should all be dead right now and there shouldn't be a Jew in the world according to that covenant.
I'm
Right?
sorry, say that again.
According to that covenant, we've done
Right.
all the bad things throughout the whole history of the Tanakh from that point onwards that should have us all gone and not in existence anymore.
Right, but God has mercy and he returns
Right.
his the
And he says,
favor
I'm
to
going to make a
Israel.
new covenant with you, and there's debate about what that covenant is, but he says it's new.
Right.
So
Right.
new could mean different things to different people.
Right. It could be renewing the old covenant.
It doesn't say renewed; it says new.
Okay.
A new covenant, not like the first. Now I
One
understand the
without
argument.
conditions.
Now I understand the arguments for why that new covenant couldn't be Christianity according to some views, but I could also make the same claims in the reverse against the Jewish view, right? So then we're stuck with, well, who's right? But the point is, it is a new covenant, and he says it's a new covenant. So is God a liar by saying a new covenant? Whichever version of that new
It's a
covenant
good
you think it
question.
is.
It's a good question. I've got to definitely study more, 100%. But I just think that the question you asked initially, whether a Jew can believe that
Right.
God is Jesus, okay, believe whatever you want, just practice halacha. That's my answer to that.
Right.
The intricacies and nuances of the arguments to get to Christianity as truth, that's a little beyond my scope.
So can I ask you, maybe on a political note here, there are Messianic Jews who are pronomian, who believe that you have to keep the Torah they have to keep all the rules of the Torah, and they even keep, to an extent, rabbinic custom as well, but they believe in Jesus. A lot of the times, if they admit that while doing aliyah to Israel, they're denied visas and denied aliyah. Do you think that that would be consistent with prior historic consensus in the Jewish world?
Consensus?
Meaning,
I don't care about consensus past the Talmud. But
do you think if Maimonides, for example, if somebody said, yeah, I keep the entire Torah, I keep all the rules, obviously what we can, but I keep all the rules as best as I can. I believe that Jesus is God, though. Do you think Maimonides would be for, let's say, the death penalty for that person?
I would have to see in the Mishnah Torah if he says that. I don't
I'm pretty
think
sure that's
so.
the stance of Maimonides, on belief.
On belief,
yeah,
possibly, but Maimonides is a major opinion, but he is an opinion.
Right.
And there is really no dogma in Judaism, because Hamasehu Aikah, we live in a world of action, and Judaism is a action-based practice. It's not a belief-based. So
I think that's a very new idea.
No,
I think that's
no,
a post-enlightenment
not
idea.
at all. I can show you in the Talmud where it says this. When they say
there's a lot of things in the Talmud.
Sure. No, I'm saying I don't know what you mean by. You said post-enlightenment. That's the Talmud's 2,000 years old. So,
right. But there's a lot of opinions that would argue with that or for it in the Talmud. There's a lot of things in the Talmud that are
sure. That's why. You see, that's proof that Judaism is not a belief-based religion, because you have all these differing beliefs, yet they all remain within orthodoxy. So it's practice-based. It's not belief-based. This is so easy to see by all the various commentators arguing with each other.
It's easy to see today. I agree with you. That is something that's easy to observe about the Jewish community, but it's not the consensus view amongst Orthodoxy and Judaism. They won't tell you that outright.
Well, okay, so Orthodoxy is only 300 years old as well. And the word Orthodoxy comes from the Reform. They named the Orthodox Orthodox because they had one way of looking at things.
Right, before that there was just Jews.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. There were just Jews that got scattered to different countries and had different minhagim. But the bottom line is that they were still observing core halacha, even though they had different beliefs. And that means you're inside mainstream Judaism. So, I don't know if you ever read Mark Shapiro, The Limits of Orthodox Theology. And
not much of it, little bits. Yeah.
Yeah, so he brings all the Rishonim who argue on Maimonides' 13 principles and they show that, according to Joseph Albo, there's 3 principles, Maimonides 13, according to him, there's 1. So there's a lot of room in Judaism for belief.
Right.
As long as you practice.
I think that's the way today, though. But I think if you told somebody in 13th century France or 12th century France in the Jewish community that you're totally Torah observant, but you believe Jesus is God, I
It's
think
funny you say
I think
France, because the French Tosafot actually believed that the God could have a body.
right. So there's a lot of opinions that God can have a body in Judaism,
Right,
but
right.
according to anti-Christian polemicists, that's never been a view in Judaism.
Okay, so
That's
that's
what I'm saying.
polemicists, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but if you go back to the source texts and the actual history, then it tells a different story. You know,
Right.
so yeah,
So in your
that's
view, as a former Orthodox Jew, there's nothing
yeah,
in Judaism that really tells you that Jesus couldn't be God.
right. There's many opinions back and forth,
Right.
but the core Judaism, no, there's no fundamental dogma that says that.
Okay, I appreciate
I
that.
don't think so. Yeah, we come from the same background, by the way, both Chabad.
Both Chabad.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
we what is it? I guess hated by all under the under the carpet, under the rug.
Exactly.
They do so much outreach; it's so good, but they're kind of crazy. That's what they say, right?
Yeah, not a lot of inreach. That's the problem. But yeah, no, I definitely
Right.
appreciate dialogue. You know, it's good. It's good
Absolutely.
to think and to talk and
I
to
wish you would
figure
have
stuff out.
disagreed with me more, though.
Uh, you know, no, I mean, in regard to belief, very interesting. I don't know if you ever heard of Shadal, Shmuel David Lutzato. He
Yeah.
was a Torah commentator, Italian, and he wrote an essay about the no dogma in Judaism, which is very interesting. You should check it out.
Will do.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Thank you.
All right.
I
Yeah,
do have somebody waiting to come join, but I appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you'll come back next time.
yalla. All right. It works.
Right.
Bye.
Wait, what did I do here? And hi there. How's it going?
Shalom. I'm Wes
Shalom.
Curry II, the man of the earth who gave Noah the plumb.
Okay.
Jesus is the Messiah of the Jews. Jesus is who gave Noah the Jewish pledge that the Hebrews have never written on paper and never told outside the house about the man of the earth who comes to bring peace.
Okay. So do you think that Jesus could be God according to the Tanakh?
Jesus, would you make all of those to tremble, please, for a moment? Thank you. I'm the man of the earth, kid.
Okay. Well,
Tell the vision of the foot cut off that did not bleed, or you shall lose everything you have.
okay. And I hope you'll come back on next
The
time.
foot cut off means do the vision.
Okay. Anyone else? You see what I bring out of the woodwork? Come on, Yehuda. You got to come on. I got to have a conversation with you. I wish you could come on. I'm not calling you out. I know you're busy. I really do. Does anyone want to? I got a super chat here. Forgot to read. Thank you so much from Dwayne. May God bless your work. Thank you. All right. Okay, how's everyone doing? Does anyone have any questions for me in the chat while we're waiting? No, I know that he's actually busy. He can be on the stream, but he can't come on and actually have a conversation. I know that he's actually busy. I'm not gonna pretend like he's running from this or anything like that. Okay, we got somebody here. Hi there. How's it going, Dean?
I'm well. How are you?
I am great. Thank you.
I have to tell you, it's a big pleasure to be on your show here.
I'm not that important, but thank you.
No, you're you know. Hey, can you hear me? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, so to be honest, I grew up like moderately from. I'm not going to go into what that means. More modern Orthodox. All I can tell you is that I'm not really necessarily here to debate you. I'd rather ask.
I don't want to have a debate. I want to have a dialogue about it.
Phenomenal. So my question is actually a little bit maybe esoteric in the sense that I found it very difficult to shake off the deep conditioning of this sort of like anti-Yeshua upbringing that I went through, and I don't actually necessarily blame any one individual or even the institution as a whole, because I think that people do it sort of without knowing, like
It's just part of the culture.
Yeah, totally a part of the
It's not intentional. I'll stop you right there just to add to that. I am becoming Catholic. I grew up as an Orthodox Jew. I spent most of my life as an Orthodox Jew, and I'm becoming Catholic. Okay? My skin crawls when I hear the name Jesus. It's something that I struggle with and have to get over. But I get where you're coming from.
By the way, that's why I prefer to call him Yeshua, was because
that's why I don't.
There's a deep conditioning there.
That's why I don't.
It's so effective. But my question really is, what is your take on the root of it? Because obviously it's sort of an inheritance upon an inheritance upon an inheritance. I mean, for basically 2,000 years, people have been teaching each other and then regurgitating that and playing a game of broken telephone. And here we are kind of 2,000 years later, dealing with the repercussions of it. But what do you feel the root of it really is? Was it purely a political thing? Was it a theological thing? What was the core of that initial derision that caused so much animosity towards Jesus, Yeshua, and the believers themselves?
So you're saying, what was the purpose of the rejection originally?
Actually, what was the root of the rejection, to your estimation?
The root of the rejection.
Was it theological? Was it spiritual? Was it a combination of things? Like, what would you...
So in my view, from what I've studied and researched about it, it appears that you get early, even rabbinic literature that doesn't necessarily disagree 100% with what Christians are teaching at the time. Now, Jews today will say, well, it's just Agadah. It's not like halacha. It's not important as far as theology. We don't need to believe what it is, but it's the same rabbis writing all of it. So there's obviously traditions within the Jewish people that go into Christianity that are still in Judaism at the time. I don't think it's necessarily all of the theology or all of the ideas that are rejected. I think Jesus was rejected as fulfilling that role, and I think the Christian movement was rejected, and I think that was partly theological and partly political. I'd say more political than theological.
Absolutely, but the antagonism itself goes so deep. So is it sort of like this positive feedback loop of the trauma that has reinforced the Jewish culture's rejection of Jesus and of Christianity, or is it just like a mishmash of different things that's very hard to navigate, or would you point to one aspect that's perpetuating it today?
Perpetuating the Jewish approach to Christianity,
the wholesale rejection and actual hatred
of Christianity by Jews,
by many, yeah, by some of the institutions themselves.
I don't think it's actually that extreme today anymore. I think it is very subliminal at this point, and I think it's dying down. I don't think there is like a mass hatred of Christianity amongst Jews anymore. I think that what it's ingrained is not a hatred of Christians or Christianity. It's a inoculation against becoming Christian. So the hatred is not a real hatred. It's more of a fear, like people will become Christian. It's not hatred of Christianity or of Christians. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, again, I don't mean to perpetuate this too long, but would you say that the root is psychological in the sense that really it would shatter people's worldview? So it's a total defense mechanism, this overt instinct towards aggressive rejection. I mean, I have friends with whom I've approach certain subjects very, very casually, and sort of challenge them on some of their perspectives. And the backlash has been very, very fierce. And I do things in a very like sort of easygoing and calm way, you know, just for the sake of dialogue. And I feel that there's almost this spirit of aggression towards it, like this reflex that's so harsh. And I'm really just trying to get to the root of that.
So where you would see this most manifest, right, in theory, should be in Israel, right?
Sure.
Okay. So there's a guy from Jews for Jesus that goes around having conversations with people on the street in Israel about Jesus as the Messiah, as the Jewish Messiah. I don't think he's ever had an incident of being attacked, not even once. There are other people that go to Israel with loudspeakers blasting, "You need to repent, you're all going to hell," and they seem to get the short end of the stick, supposedly, but it's also in response to what they're doing. So I think that the aggressive response to Christianity is also on how a lot of the Christian world approaches Jews. I don't think that the Christian world is innocent in the way that they approach Judaism and Jewish people.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
I think there's two sides to this here.
There are absolutely two sides to it. There just seems to be so much of a blind, you know, like instinct, a jerk reaction that I'm still trying to unpack. But actually, one more question: why? And you've probably covered this in a few of your videos, but I'm curious as to what has attracted you to Catholicism versus Protestantism?
I want to be careful here for two reasons. Number one, I don't want to misrepresent the Catholic Church in anything that I say, as I am new to it, and I don't think that would be appropriate. But also, I also don't want to demonize anyone as being wrong in whatever way. You know, I respect people from all different backgrounds here, as far as how they believe and where their faith goes. And I do respect also Jews who keep Judaism because they believe that it's true. So I want to be very careful with that. For me, studying the history of the early church, studying the early writings of the church would lead me to believe that it's either Orthodoxy, like the Eastern Orthodox, or Catholic. And then specifically, it would seem to me that it's the Eastern Orthodox side that broke away for a number of reasons, and not that the Catholic Church is the one that's in error there. I'm not going to go much further into it there. I respect the Eastern Orthodox. I respect Protestants who are faithful believers. I just decided that it seems right to me to become Catholic.
Yeah, phenomenal. And my last question really is, and with keeping, you know, total respect for everybody, because we're all God's children, we're all on the path that we need to be on. Can you point to something positive, something a core element that does appeal to you within the Catholic tradition?
A core element that does appeal to me within the Catholic tradition.
It might be more personal than that also, like where it's very hard to answer that, and it's an emotional thing as well. But I'm curious if there is something that you've noticed that really appeals to you as a person.
That appeals to me on like a personal level, or what I think is true?
I guess something that, you know, really lines up with your worldview at this point.
So I approach everything very rationally. Even my belief in God, I don't have like revelatory moments. I don't have like emotional experience of God. Like I don't have like Jesus moments where God talks to me. Like on a rational level, I believe that the continuation of the early church is found in the Catholic Church, and that's what brings me there. It's not a I like it or don't like it. In fact, on a aesthetic level, I actually like the Eastern Orthodox quite a bit, which is why, well, not getting too much into it, but I actually like on an aesthetic level, I prefer the Eastern Orthodox Church, but that wasn't enough to bring me there.
That was a phenomenal answer. I think you hit the core. I really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. I felt like we were building up to something there and we never got there, but
do you want to keep going? I mean, we can totally keep going.
Up to you, but I felt like you were getting somewhere with that you're afraid to go to.
No, I mean, the you know, I'm a recent follower. You know, I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has sent many messengers, and I, you know, kind of sort of half listened, kept, you know, maybe listened more, maybe listened less, and, you know, I had kind of an interesting breakthrough actually on the eve of Rosh Hashanah. Definitely painted my high holidays quite differently this year, and I mean that, you know, with the biggest smile. But it's you know, I've had the grand opportunity of connecting with real, like, I mean, evangelical Christians who didn't try to evangelize me, but really asking them questions about their relationships with Yeshua, and what that actually means. Because as a Jewish person looking, as a Jewish person on the outside looking in, it's so foreign, it's so different. That personal relationship is, I mean, maybe within certain Kabbalistic elements, you could find similarities to some extent, the higher self, etc. But it's really so foreign, and I find it fascinating because I look into people's eyes and I don't see an ounce of lying. It's their ecstatic experience, and some people are, maybe also a little crazy too, but that doesn't necessarily negate the authenticity of their experience. So when I hear you talk about that Catholicism is at this point what appeals to you from a very rational perspective, I think that's really interesting, and that kind of draws a stark comparison with what faith is for many different people. Like, it's not just ecstatic experience for everybody, where they're all experiencing this sort of high, which I've seen, in Christ Fellowship and so on. It's really refreshing actually to hear someone who comes at it from a very intellectual perspective. I don't hear that very often, and when I do, it's very domineering. You know what I mean?
Well, I've had people tell me. So it's funny because there's people that most people don't have a problem with what I'm doing. People that knew me growing up, people in my family, most people don't have an issue with it. There are those that are very defensive about it and get pretty nasty. Even they don't cross over the line mostly of lying or making stuff up. They'll attack my character and so on and say all kinds of stuff about me. But generally speaking, they won't come out with lies about where I come from. So everyone knows that I come from a Jewish background. There's no denying that. I served in the IDF. I lived in Israel. I'm an Israeli citizen. I never had like particularly negative experiences with Judaism. I had a very good time in the Jewish community. I have my reasons for why I had a distaste for certain things of the Jewish community, which is why I left originally, long before becoming a Christian. But I don't have any particularly negative attitude towards Jewish people or the Jewish community in that way. I didn't have any negative experiences like that. Like most of my friends are still Orthodox Jews and Jews in general. My wife is Jewish. I don't have any issues where I'm like searching for God to save me when I came to this. So all the traditional ad hominems that you get, people have tried since I started doing what I'm doing now, and they just fall apart one after the other. It's like, well, he's not this thing that we say is usually why people become Christian. He's not this thing, which is why we say this is not this thing. So why is he doing it? It's just, well, because I found the truth in it. That I believe that it's the truth. It's not a special emotional thing here.
No, for sure. I totally agree.
And the reality is, because there's so many figures that are so prominent in people's view that, oh, so-and-so became a Christian after Jesus saved him from drugs, or so-and-so became a Christian because he married a Christian, or whatever else it is that people use to, that doesn't invalidate somebody's faith. I'm just saying that's the attacks that people get. Most Jews who become Christians are not in the public eye and nobody knows about them. And they just become Christians and they go about their life, and there's nothing wrong with them. There's nothing that was going on wrong in their lives. They just found their way to Christianity. Somebody convinced them of it. Something convinced them of it. And so that's just the reality. Everyone thinks that it's some big moment for people, but most people are actually convinced intellectually.
That's really interesting. I'll share a really quick anecdote. גם אני שירתתי בצה"ל, אני אזרח ישראלי גם כן. I also served in the IDF. My wife is Jewish, and a lot of the things that you had mentioned there resonate with me. I had a phenomenal upbringing. I had a really, really positive modern Orthodox upbringing. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm still super fond of it.
Yeah.
I still belong to a shul, so, I ended up, I sort of end up in shul on Shabbos and then in church on Sunday. So my weekend is totally taken up.
Don't say that out loud. You'll get accused of being a Judaizer.
What are you going to do? But that's a very personal thing, right?
Yeah.
But it's fascinating because for me too, it actually didn't happen at this low point in my life. It didn't come out of crisis. And most of the people that I find around me in church settings were sort of at the lowest of the lows when Yeshua came and raised them up. And the Jewish people that I meet, I mean, there are definitely people who found him through alcoholism, or recovery from alcoholism and other such addictions and so on. But it's actually more common than it is, rare that Jewish people arrive to it either intellectually or just with this like sort of this light that is shined into their heart all of a sudden, and they don't know what it is, and then they start seeking it out and they realize, down the road sort of what that is. And I wonder if there's like a, if that's something, if that's something that's been noticed, or if it's purely anecdotal and that's just my my perspective.
Right. I have to ask something here because I see something in the chat and I wonder your take on this.
Yeah, sure.
I don't mean this to get super controversial. Okay. I just want to ask, 99% of the time it's trauma, according to you, Yehuda. Okay. Why, if it's 99% of the time and there's approximately, 100,000 converts from Judaism to Christianity in the last 40 years or whatever it is, since the evangelical movement started, why are there or maybe it's not 100,000. No, it's got to be close to it, close to 100,000. Why are there 100,000 Jews traumatized by the Jewish community? And this, by the way, I don't think it's trauma. Why would that be the case? Or maybe you can weigh in on this.
Listen, I definitely grew up with a very colorful cast of characters. In some ways, the book The Orchard it was sort of written about my class in school. Not going to go into how it's a very weird book, written well, but weird book about like a Jewish high school and sort of the rebellion that occurs within. Kind of an interesting take on it. But what I can tell you is that people went in very different directions. You ended up with people on the far left, with a total rejection of who they were, absolute desire to disconnect from anything that they were ever connected to. And then you had people who really leaned into it. Then you had people who obviously went to Israel, flipped out, came back, sort of either moderated themselves or just sort of dropped everything. I mean, there wasn't this like, maybe that's just the human condition, right? But there didn't seem to be many people with this consistent baseline where they're like, yeah, this is the right thing for me. And I think that's because God was missing from our upbringing. Torah Umada is great, but there's no like Torah and science, that sort of like Soloveitchik esque philosophy
right.
towards the world. It's great, but actually it's missing the one crucial element, which is actually faith itself. And they say, through action comes faith. Someone on this chat said that, Judaism's an action-based religion versus faith. And I find that like to be actually indicative of the problem itself.
It's a post-Enlightenment attitude towards Judaism.
Correct. It's not necessarily the way it's intended to be. Right.
Right. Exactly.
Avraham Avinu, I can't say that was an action thing initially. I mean, he obviously did act out many things, but it's because he discovered, the one who spoke
through his faith in God, he became obedient to God.
Correct. It wasn't the other way around.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, the faith caused the obedience, right?
Yeah, of course. So it's in this like this training, this conditioning. It's very, very rigid that I think people, it tries to shove a lot of people into a box, and people don't like to feel like they're, being entrapped by something. And it's, kind of our instinct to just push hard back on that thing. It doesn't have to be like a major trauma. It could be just, the minor, I hate these words because we kind of, pathologize everything, but like sort of the little micro traumas, things that were less pleasant or whatever, things that add up that just create a distaste over time. And I see that all the time. It's really unfortunate in Israel and the US. It's kind of everywhere.
Right. Can I ask, are you you're a messianic believer now?
Yeah, I am. I'm trying to figure out what that really means, to be quite honest. But yeah, it's quite a change in paradigm.
And how long ago was that?
Like just before Rosh Hashanah.
Just before Rosh Hashanah. What was the main switch catalyst for you?
I'm not going to go too deeply into it, but it was sort of a gradual process with a lot of people who I felt were sent into my life, overtly or more subtly, but people with whom I had really phenomenal conversations and really, really dove into what it meant for them. And I was able to sort of explore that within myself. And I've always believed in Hashem very, very deeply. But I kind of express it like this. It felt like I was sitting in a living room and God was in the attic, but there was no ladder, I know God's there, but there was this like clear separation between the two. And all of a sudden when I kind of was able to push through that like stigma within myself, that initial resistance, all of a sudden I saw, oh my God, there's this ladder, and it's there, and it's not necessarily against the Torah. It just depends on it really just depends on your interpretation and to which rabbinic authorities you subscribe. But most of this stuff actually just came from rabbinic authority. I think your videos actually helped me a lot with coming to that conclusion. So,
wow.
yeah, pretty fantastic.
Okay. Have you heard of Radar Apologetics?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I would say you should get in touch with him and have a conversation with him.
Sounds good. I'll send you an email. Maybe you can introduce me or something.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Ash. Appreciate it.
Next time, I hope you come on again.
Bezrat Hashem. Have a good one. Bye.
Okay. I think I'm going to read a couple of these. So I'm not sure what's going on here with my screen, but I'll try to read this. Okay, there we go. Thank you for everyone who sent some super chats here. From Gabriel, glad to see you engaging with the folks. God bless. Thank you. And do you have other social media? Blue Sky? I don't have any social media outside of YouTube. So if you see somebody with my name on other social media, it's not me. Daniel Ward, good to see you, man. Dude, you get some crazy people on. Yes, I do. And from James Scott, new converts can join the Eastern rites of the Catholic Church. Just saying, you don't have to be Roman Rite if you don't want to be, but you would still be Catholic. Not saying anything about it. I am well aware. Thank you. I'm giving too much away here. I gave too much away already. And thank you for the super chat. I'm converting to Orthodox Judaism, Lapid Judaism. Yeah, Lapid Judaism is not Orthodox Judaism. In order to follow Yeshua, Paulinity is from Satan. Shalom and grace. There's no consistency in that worldview. I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. There's literally no consistency in that worldview. It's a modern concoction designed to pull in to be a new niche thing that you can capitalize on. Okay. All right. Does anyone have any other questions in the chat? Does anyone want to come on and discuss the topic? Can still go for a little bit longer if anyone's interested in coming on. Let's see what people are saying in the... Okay. Anyone? Yeah, somebody go on. Anyone? I had a wackadoodle and then two people that are not so keen on disagreeing. I want somebody who disagrees who's not a wackadoodle. Can somebody who's a normal Orthodox Jew come on and have the conversation? I'm kind of missing the wackadoodle now. I wish he would have stayed on for more fun. Wackadoodle, if you're still watching, you can come back on. You're a Trinitarian Christian and you want to come on and ask a question. Before we maybe okay, let's 1 second here. I'm gonna favorite your comment so I can see that. I would come on. What is your background? HHGGU. What is your background? Oh, Catholic Christian. Good to see you, man. Do you want to come on and pretend to be Jewish? Oh, we got somebody on here. Okay. Let's get you on here. All right, David, how's it going?
Hello, very good, very good. How about you?
I'm pretty good.
So I'm following you since a while. I'm not first language English. I'm Italian.
Okay.
I want to understand how, between all the religion, you choose to become Christian after what all the Christian made to us. And I'm Italian, so probably I'm biased.
Mhm.
I know maybe too much history, and
Yeah, I have some Italian family.
okay. So how can you do that? Like I don't really understand.
Okay, so you're saying how can I become a Christian when the Christian world has done awful things to Jewish people? Is that the question? Oh, so he wanted to ask his loaded question and then leave. I'll respond, I guess, even if he's not here. Oh no, I guess he just dropped out. I thought you were asking a loaded question and then running before I got to answer you.
No, I don't know. I don't know what happened. Don't worry. I will not
Okay,
run.
all right. I appreciate the question. I hear that question a lot, and
I imagine so.
so first of all, the question, just to clarify, how can I become a Christian when the Christian world has abused our people, the Jewish people? Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just a couple things here. Is there a specific thing that you're referring to, or are you saying in general?
I'm referring to my idea is something like how many things some an idea have to be tried upon so that someone can say that it have been a failure. I don't know this kind of concept you say.
He keeps disappearing. I'm going to try to answer him in case he doesn't come back on. Let's see. Maybe he'll come right back. Let's check. Okay. He came back here. All right, you keep dropping out there, but I think I understand the question. Why would
Okay.
somebody become Christian if the Christian world has done these things to Jewish people?
And
Right?
not only that, like why Christianity is because how many time Christianity have to evolve to become something acceptable is have been tried so many times, and every single time it becomes something that is to me is negative to the people, negative to the society, overall negative.
So you're kind of also answering a previous question for me. That's the reason why I decided to become Catholic of all things in the Christian world. I think the core elements are retained to the highest degree, and
Yeah,
have
surely
not changed much.
if I have to become a Christian, I would be.
Okay, hopefully he comes back on. I'm going to try to get right to the question this time because he keeps dropping off the call. There we go.
why it's
Yeah,
going.
I don't
coming
know, but
going.
I'll try to answer your first question.
Yeah.
Because I think we agree that if you're going to be like you said, if you were to be a Christian, you'd be a Catholic. But funny enough, that also goes to your first question. The Catholic Church, from everything that that's gone on, why a Catholic if the Catholic Church has done things to the Jewish people? So I do want to clarify that a lot of things we have to understand the nuance of. First of all, that for example, when we talk about the pogroms in Eastern Europe, there was Cossacks murdering Jews in the name of Jesus, but they were also murdering Catholic clergy and Polish noblemen who were Catholics. So which parts of the Christian world we're referring to and doing what is very important in the nuance here. Are we following there?
Yeah, I'm for this reason the second.
I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to let him one more time, and then I'm going to answer the question as quickly as possible, and then I'll go to the next guy. I see somebody waiting.
For
right,
me,
so
it's fine to continue.
I see somebody waiting, and I think you're dropping
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
So I'm going to answer very
Yeah, no
quickly.
worries.
I
Yeah.
know some people that are friends of mine who are rabbis today. Okay, they're very devout Orthodox Jews. They were abused by their rabbi growing up. Okay, and they know more people that were also. So there's negative stuff that happened to them in the Jewish world, but that doesn't stop them from being Orthodox Jews. I don't think that believing in something as the truth can be undermined by what other people claiming it's the truth did in the name of that thing. So that's just the simplest answer of it. I think you're probably gonna drop off again at some point, but
yeah, don't worry.
Maybe
Okay.
next time come back on and we can have a longer conversation about it. Okay. We got Aaron. How's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
All right. So, you've recently come on my feed a lot. I appreciate the intellectual honesty you bring to everything you discuss. It's really hard to toe that line. Generally speaking, I'm very familiar with that line. It's hard to toe. In my opinion, the reasons that Jesus can't be God is that God seems to be unable to be too close to humanity without some sort of subsuming going on.
Okay.
And by that, I mean, like, you get the angel of death, where it says it's actually God him very self who does it. You have Nadav and Abihu who are like, to offer a strange fire, and they end up dying, but their bodies are still kind of there. And God says he's sanctified from them or by them. When Moses gets to see,
can I just ask quickly on that for Nadav and Avihu? Did they die because they were too close to God?
It says they died because they offered a strange fire.
Right. So I just want to get to that one.
Sure,
quickly.
We could get that to that one quickly, right? We can go back and forth on that. But I mean, you would even agree that according to the Talmud and stuff like that, like the amount of separation and doing everything exactly perfect and purifying the place just to make sure there isn't some divine accident. The purity laws, right? A murderer can go to the Beit HaMikdash, right? But a woman on her period can't because she has a quote unquote life leak. If you are close to death, or there are any of these things that involve life and death, seminal emissions, if you go to the temple, right, there's supposed to be some sort of negative consequence. This is free of any kind of sin. It's Moses having to be covered by the cleft of the rock because it's so awesome and everything like that. There seems to need to be, in my opinion, from scripture, either God needs to be diluted, come like an angel to get close to us, but the full glory of God seems incompatible with humanity on some level.
Okay. So I get where you're coming from, and I think those are good points. So we have verses in Tanakh that say that no one can see God and live, right?
Correct.
We have verses that say that you saw no form, you only heard the voice, right?
In the fire.
In the fire.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we also have Moses and Aaron and
God's walking through the garden.
Well, no, Moses and the elders. It says they saw the God of Israel. It doesn't say it was a
Moses
prophecy.
and the elders. Yeah.
It doesn't say that. It says they saw him standing.
Yeah, and they all ate.
Right. So we have contradictions there, right?
Sure.
So in my
argument would be that is even though it says he saw them, it's like a lesser form. Just like God speaks to Abraham, but it's an angel. It like turns into an angel, Like there seems to be kind of like this switch off that can happen even within a narrative.
Like a modalism?
It is God, and then suddenly it's in, huh? Yeah.
It's like a modalism.
Sure.
So modalism
Yeah.
would be completely contrary to Orthodox teaching in Judaism, and the Rambam would obviously, be the good source for that.
Sure. Yeah. I'm not suggesting an Orthodox perspective. I'm offering
Right.
what I consider an internal,
Okay.
somewhat of an internally
Okay.
consistent. We're taking the contradictions. I'm not going to explain them away.
Okay.
They
Right.
exist. They're there. They make us all uncomfortable, but they're there. And
They do
whether
make
you
us all
believe the
uncomfortable.
Bible is a divine document or it's edited, it seems to be left there on purpose, right? However you look at it. So I'm just taking it at face value that God needs to go through some sort of dilution and some sort of angel contain. But when God is in its purest form, and if you're approaching God in his purest form, something you might lose your life. Your life might return to God right then.
So there's basically the contradiction of the seen God and the unseen God throughout the Tanakh.
I'm going beyond unseen. If you get too close to seeing God, maybe God can't stop you from dying. God can't stop you. Just like, when you see those water drops and the two water drops just get too close, they can't stop joining up and becoming one. That's the way I'm kind of reading it. Do you understand my comparison?
So there's the essence of God that you can't get too close to and get too near, or it'll consume you.
Sure.
And then the visible actions of God in the world. So
and
how would you deal with the separation? Sorry, I have to stop.
I don't usually like Kabbalistic ideas.
Yehuda, sorry, I just want to say, Yehuda over here, don't. If you're gonna go to nonsense, I'm gonna have to call you out, man. Okay. It's not a vision. It says they saw the God of Israel. I don't know how it can be any plainer. You'd have to say that everything in the Bible then could be an allegory, unless I think you, by the way, Aaron, you're having a very, I guess, much more intellectually honest approach to it. I don't think it's correct. I don't think it's consensus with Judaism either. But at least you're trying to struggle with the inconsistencies and the contradictions. I'm of the view, just to be plain here, that if you were to read the Bible with no tradition, no explanation, no Judaism or Christianity to give you a lens to view it through, you could very easily become a pagan. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, so, I wouldn't use the word pagan, but I think it's very clear. Go ahead.
Colloquially, but yeah.
Yeah, you'd be performing animal sacrifices. You would, there's lots of weird things that we might consider kind of odd. The idea of blood guilt seems to be a very strong idea in the Bible, something that I think Christianity has in some form, and that idea, like, it's expressed through the sacrifice of Jesus, but it seems like modern Judaism has abandoned the idea of blood guilt, which I think is odd, considering how core it seems to be to the text itself. But, separate from all that, I'm trying to be internally consistent to the text, and it seems to me that this is one of the only ideas I tend to like, but this idea of tzimtzum, this contraction, that for actually exist, God can't actually come that close in his full form. If he does to reveal himself, it has to be in some sort of form.
Okay.
And so
but how do we know that about God?
I think I've given you several examples of that, and I would take another one, which is Elijah. You have the big the thunderstorm and the winds and all that kind of stuff, and God is not there. But what terrifies Elijah is like the hidden voice, and I kind of think that small, still voice, and I think that's actually the most revealed of God, but also the most contracted. Right, everything that was really that visual before, that was that loud before, that didn't actually impact Elijah, because even though it seems louder to us, I think it's actually more contracted. Does that make sense?
Right, but every example you've given has given us that there's like an essence of God that can't be touched or seen, but then there's a almost a personal aspect of God that is seen in the world.
I would say that there can be some sort of visual representation, audio representation, whether that is an angel, right, so, in the sense that we believe it now, or some messenger, some in between idea that maybe we don't understand.
But it's a consistent thing.
God
Meaning it's not like
consistently
different
tries
gods.
to be.
It's not avatars. It's not avatars of
Doesn't
different
seem.
gods that appear to
I
different
don't know.
nations.
Like, I can't answer that question, right? It's like asking, why do angels have names in the later books and not the beginning ones, right? Like, there's some things that's like, I don't know if I can have a satisfactory answer to that.
Right, but if the different attitudes of like how God interacts with the world could have like avatars or things like that were not consistent, like there would be like a lot of grounds even then for even more understanding of like different nations having different gods. They're all really the one true God. Like, would you be saying that?
Oh, I mean, let's be real, right? I think the Bible as it is allows for religions, right? You brought up they looked in the fire and saw nothing. I don't know if it's right before or right after, they look up to the heavens, for I have allotted those to the nations. Right? That seems to be that
Right,
God is understanding.
but God has never said
idea.
that right, but he also said that the gods are like the nations are like blind and deaf and they're not real. Like they're worshipped,
Sure,
but they're not real. They don't actually exist.
They're worshipped, but I don't think personally from just the Tanakh reading, yes, those gods are not real.
Right.
But God is not holding them away just for believing them, as long as they aren't doing child sacrifice, right? As long as they're not doing cultic prostitution. If they are, morally religious
through the prophets,
and worship the stars, huh?
But except through the prophets, the message is consistently that the nations will also bow to and serve the God of Israel in faith.
Right. At some point in the end times, when every non-Jew by his Sitim celebrates Sukkot, right? That's because the knowledge of God is widely known, and it can't be argued against anymore. I'm not saying it's like a divine takeover, but it seems to be the knowledge of God is revealed in such a way that the stars no longer matter because we know that they're not real, right? It doesn't mean
there's a revelation that goes through a series of stages until the whole world knows God
and celebrates Sukkot in Jerusalem. Yes.
Okay. So there's a revelation that starts with some people here and there, then the nation of Israel, and then all the nations, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you believe that God has a unknowable like essence that cannot be seen, touched, would consume the world. You have his personal interactions with the world in form,
which I don't know are not mediators.
Which are not mediators. So they are God
I don't know if they are.
World.
I don't know if they aren't. Like, are they angels? Right? Is there some sort of in-between divinity? Right? Like, I'm saying it could be an intermediary.
But it's God's unknowable essence, and then it's the interactions in the world, and then there's a covenant that extends at some point to all nations.
At some point, yes.
Welcome to Christianity.
I mean, I think also welcome to Judaism.
But Judaism doesn't teach that today.
That's fine. They don't have to teach it from the pulpit. My Tanakh says it.
Right. So you are interpreting the Tanakh through a Christian lens. You're just calling it Judaism.
How do you figure?
Because the Jewish world does not agree with you on any of those points. There's a lot more.
They don't have to agree with me.
Subverts the point that you just said.
I never said that Judaism had to agree with me. The open question was, why can't Jesus be God?
What I'm saying is your worldview. Your worldview is a Christian worldview, not a Jewish worldview. When I say Jewish, I mean Judaism as we know it today.
Sure.
I think Christianity is Judaism.
I understand that I'm taking a much more personal interpretation of Scripture, and then therefore by not being bound by certain opinions, right? I don't like every opinion that I feel that I've quoted. Like, I feel like I've gotten from within Judaism. Are they the super minority opinion? Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Right?
So could it be that Jesus is the incarnation of that personal aspect of God?
I would say then, could it be?
Because we're talking about the knowable part of God right now, so that could come in a human body.
You would have a hard time convincing me that essence could become human,
but
even on that level.
But we just said that it's the knowable part of God that would not consume a human.
The knowable part of God that would not consume a human. But I don't know that's truly a knowable part of God or just an intermediary. Now you could say, hey,
but it's from God and it wouldn't consume the person.
Could Jesus, the Messiah, be an intermediary? Sure, I think that makes a lot more sense than a Trinity.
I don't think he's an intermediary. I think he's still God, but in the incarnation. But what you've said
Okay.
before, but what you said up until this point is that you're deciding it makes more sense that it's an intermediary, which I get. But it is the knowable part that could, in theory, become incarnate and not destroy the person or the people around it.
I mean, we're
be.
talking about a very personal interpretation that I have,
Right.
and I can't, like, because we're dealing with metaphysics, right? We're dealing with the metaphysical, right?
Yeah.
And we're dealing with trying to keep an internal logic to a text that has been through many wars and transcriptions and all sorts of things. Like, sure, right? God could have appointed some sort of intermediary. God could have made the Torah, if we accept the Torah as like a thing that existed in the way the rabbis do. Could that have become a human? Sure, why not?
Okay.
I could grant that as an idea.
As a possibility from the Tanakh. Weird, but a possibility from the Tanakh.
It's a possibility from weird, but a possibility, right? But I think what really what distracted Judaism from Christianity was when Jesus started becoming more godlike. Like, I just feel like if that switch hadn't been made,
if he's the incarnate God, then he's godlike.
A lot more. Right, but I think you just would have had. I think you would have had more Jews become Christians instead of more Gentiles become Christians. If the Trinity idea didn't become more and more popular.
Isn't that fascinating that Gentile pagans who hated the Jewish beliefs before that point suddenly started following the Jewish Messiah?
I do find it interesting. Right? Very odd, especially because, as far as I'm aware, Jesus is the only prophet who full out states that he didn't come for the Gentiles.
Sorry, say that again?
As far as I'm aware, Jesus is the only quote unquote Jewish prophet. Like, if I'm going to give him some sort of status, right? Like, he's a figure in a biblical book. I'm just going to grant, like, for the sake of this discussion, he's the only prophet that I'm aware of who says he only came for the Israelites exclusively and nobody else.
Right, but he also is, if he's the same God that spoke through the Holy Spirit through the prophets, then he also said it many other times.
Sure. I just find it interesting.
You have to presuppose
that Moses didn't
you have to say Jesus is not God. I believe that on faith, and therefore he can't be the one that's being described there because he then said this that's contradicting. It's a circular argument.
I mean, I do find that contradictory. I just find it like I find it odd that Christianity became such a Gentile religion when, again, like, Moses doesn't come exclusively for the Jewish people. He comes to redeem the Jews, but he takes the Erev Rav with him, right? All the prophets, if you really like pin them, like, they're not like, oh, I've only come for the Israelites. They serve the Israelites, sure, that's their people, but there's not this exclusivity comment, in my opinion, that I don't think you hear that. The only one who says, I only came for the lost sheep of Israel,
we have to start Jesus, understanding,
which I find is
Israel is an interesting word in the Bible, right?
Right. Yeah. Right, but who's he speaking to? He's speaking to what? She's not Samaritan, right? She's just
a Samaritan woman. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's a Samaritan woman, but yeah, he's just like, for your faith, you'll still be healed, right? Like, she says something like, even the crumbs, like the dogs eat the crumbs under the master's table or something, and he says, for your faith, right? But he's very clear that who he came for was just the children of Israel. So I find it interesting, or the lost sheep of Israel, that it would become a mostly Gentile religion.
Well, he sent his disciples out to the nations, but yeah, I mean, none of this would undermine, because if he's God, then he also said it through the prophets many, many times.
How are you give an example of that?
Like all the prophets that say all the nations will come to me, all the nations will bow to me. Like when the prophets are saying that God is saying that to the nations, that would be Jesus also.
Right, but like you have like Jonah, who's going to become a prophet for the Ninevites, right?
Right.
Like God calls him to go to the Ninevites. That is his role.
And he called Paul to go to the Gentiles and make believers of the Gentile nations.
Right, but why wouldn't have Jesus included that in his message?
He did include it in his message. It's in the book of Acts.
While he was,
which is inspired scripture. Well, you're making a distinction between God was.
I'm making a distinction between the Gospels. I'm making a distinction between what God said, what Jesus said in the Gospels, like what he's recorded as saying. Because I think even if we're just being intellectually honest, we might take said more than what someone who never actually met him while he was alive dreamed about
Right.
or had a vision of. Like, we could say he had a vision, but he never met Jesus, right? While he was
Right.
alive. Is that fair?
Jesus came to him explicitly.
In a vision after he was crucified.
God came to a lot of the prophets in visions, most of them, in fact.
Sure, but yes, they're all visions. I'm not saying it can't be legitimate.
I guess we have to dismiss Jeremiah because he didn't see God on Sinai.
I'm not saying you need to dismiss him. I'm saying his vision could be legitimate. I just want to, from my personal preference, I would take the recordings of the Gospels of what Jesus actually said in his very short time over what someone had a vision of later who never actually met him, right? Because Paul ends up being on the opposing end to the, when we have the council in Jerusalem, right? And Paul, they're like, circumcising.
Let me just bring somebody else on here with you for a second, okay?
Go for it.
I don't know if you were watching the private chat there, but hide camera, keep audio.
And by all means, I've taken a lot of your time. You can feel free to end it with me if you'd like.
I want you to stay on just for a minute here because Utis.
Hello, how are you, Ash?
You were quoting Matthew in the private chat.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you want to tell?
Let me see that.
Aaron?
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder
Matthew
if I can.
It's Matthew 28:19 is Jesus' own words, and he says, after he's resurrected, to go into all the world, baptize all the nations in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teach them to obey everything that he's taught the disciples. And then
that's what I was referencing. I'm just not as good at scripture recall as you are.
Thank you.
Oh.
Let me look at that. Thank you so much. Hold on.
Yeah, that's from Jesus' own mouth. So, and it's in the same book where you're saying Jesus says he only came for the Jews. That's because Jesus's theology is perfect with Paul's, where Paul says first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. Jesus was sent first to the Jew, and then when he accomplished his work on the cross, he sent the disciples to the Gentiles.
Thank you for bringing this to my attention.
Yep.
I clearly have not remembered that part much.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And thanks for Ash for letting me up.
Yeah, and Aaron, I appreciate the conversation.
Go for it. Yeah, you can come in after time. Thank you.
No, I think you debate vigorously, dialogue rather, because it's not really debate, but I think you dialogue vigorously, but with respect, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And all right, Utis, is that I'm pronouncing that right?
It's that's not my real name. It's just my online name. It's Autis. It's Greek. It's
Autis.
Greek for nobody.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, I got it.
I should use
I got it from a TV show. But anyways, Ash, actually, I know you're on your way, sort of, to the Catholic Church, if I'm not mistaken. As a Jew, I'd love to discuss the Eucharist with you, but if now is not a good time because the topic is Jesus God, then that's perfectly fine. I'll just drop off.
Let's not get too long into
Okay.
it, but let's a little bit. What do you?
Sure.
What did you want to tell me about
Sure.
that?
I know the first time I ever seen you was on God Logic's live, and you were talking with the Orthodox Jews there. And in the past, Brother Radar had the attitude that what most Jews say when it comes to the Eucharist, that it's, you're going against the text, you're making, Jesus teaching against the Torah, cannibalism. But what surprised me was that day when Radar was live with you, is you guys were in sync, where you guys were like, well, Jesus as God has every right to interpret the law that he gave to the Jews, right? That's
Right.
basically what you guys said, which surprised me.
Right.
That showed that Radar was softening on it. But I've tried to discuss this topic with him, but he hasn't been interested with discussing with me. He said, he says he doesn't really want to talk about the Eucharist. So that's why I want.
Radar is very respectful of all believers.
Oh yes, very much so. Yeah.
Yeah.
On all his lives, he's like, just because we disagree doesn't mean that the Catholics aren't brothers in Christ and they're not Trinitarians and whatnot.
That was the first thing that I saw him ever say when I first saw him on a stream. somebody said, but the Orthodox and the Catholics, and he's like, don't come here with
Yeah.
that. I'm not buying
Yeah,
it.
that's right. Now, no, I'm not trying to just bring him up. Just the point of bringing him up is just I wanted to talk to a Jewish brother about this, and I know you're friends with
Yeah.
him. So, anyways, my argument for the Eucharist, I'd like to share it with you, and then hear your thoughts on it. Is I think John 6 is the clearest, but because the Catholics and the Protestants butt heads about John 6, I actually end up just avoiding it. I don't even go to John 6, even though I think it's by
Okay.
far the clearest.
John 6 is where he first says
No,
it.
John
Like,
6.
take, eat, this is my.
John 6 is where he says, "Unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man
Right.
and drink his," that whole chapter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I avoid that one just because the Protestants are like, it's a metaphor. We say it's literal, so I just avoid that one. Where I go is in Malachi chapter 1, verse 6 to 13. Yahweh, you're cool with me saying that, right? Oh, I can say Hashem.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yahweh. Okay, sorry. No,
yeah.
I know you're not rabbinic, but I don't know if you follow that tradition. Anyways,
No.
Yahweh says to the
I still say the Shema every night before I go to sleep out of habit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Actually, I say it as well. But
Oh.
I don't say it with the Adonai. I say it, Yahovah, Yahovah. Anyways, I'm not trying to impress anyone, but in Malachi chapter 1, verse 6 to 13, Yahweh's speaking to the Jewish priests, and he's
Let me open it up just because I want to follow along
Sure.
with you. My scripture recall is probably not as good as yours.
It's only certain chapters I know very well. Other
Right.
chapters I need to.
No, I'm joking because we're all like
Yeah.
that. We all have the things we remember. You said Malachi.
Yeah, chapter 1, verse 6 to 13. I'm gonna focus in on
16. You said Malachi.
no, 6 to 13. Chapter 1.
6 to 13.
Yeah. Chapter 1.
Okay.
All right, cool. So Yahweh's speaking to the Jewish priests, and he's basically saying to them, he's condemning them for offering blemished, defiled animal sacrifices. Okay. He says, I am a king, I am a father. Would you give this to your governor? Would you give this to your human ruler or whatever, so on and so forth? But yet you're going to give it to me. So Yahweh feels disrespected. And what he says is he's looking forward to the future where the Gentiles from the rising of the sun to its setting all over the world will offer a pure offering, a pure sacrifice on the Lord's table from the Gentiles all over the world. Why this is so fascinating is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong about this, Yahweh's altar is only ever called the Lord's table here in this chapter. Every other place where it talks about Yahweh's altar, it calls it Yahweh's altar, Yahweh's table. But here it's specifically called the Lord's table. Okay? And then what...
Yeah.
And what St. Paul does is he picks up on this language in 1 Corinthians chapter 10 and chapter 11. So here, and it's all the same context. In Malachi chapter 1, it's Yahweh contrasting the failed animal sacrifices of the Jews with the perfect, pure offering of the Gentiles. It's a contrast.
So essentially, you defiled the food on my altar, and when you present a blind animal for sacrifice, okay. And he says Mizbechi first, my altar, but then he says
he says
Shulchan Adonai, the table of the, they say the sovereign here. They translate it in the JPS. Okay.
Yeah. So here it does use the word altar once, if I'm not mistaken, but it's also uses.
And then the table of the Lord.
The Lord's table, the table of the Lord. Exactly.
It says Adonai, so it doesn't use the name of God, but I see what you're getting at.
The
there.
Lord's table.
My name is honored among the nations. Everywhere the incense and pure oblation are offered.
Yep. If I'm not mistaken, I don't remember if it's in the Hebrew or the Greek, but when it used the word pure offering, it's the same type of wording as I think
that would be umincha tehora.
The bread offering, like right in the temple. Okay, so sorry. Let me know if I'm going too fast because I know you're reading.
No, I got it.
Okay, so then 1 Corinthians chapter 10, what St. Paul does is he picks up on this language of the Lord's table. So in if you want to pull it up, brother.
Yeah, I can do that as well. 1 Corinthians
chapter 10. If you don't mind, can you put it on the screen, or is that not...
Oh yeah, I can do that as well. 1 Corinthians 10.
And I don't remember exactly which verse. I usually start at the part where it says flee from idolatry.
Here, you can guide me through it here. Let me screen share.
Sure. This is so cool. I tried emailing you, but I guess it didn't go through. I wanted to talk about this a long time ago.
Man, if I told you the amount of emails I get,
Yeah, no worries.
and they're not all pleasant.
No worries, no worries. I mean, it's perfect. I'm happy that the Lord gave me the opportunity right now. It started in verse 14 there. So therefore, my beloved, flee from idolatry. I speak as to wise men. Judge for yourselves what I say. The cup of blessing that we bless, is it not the translation I use is the ESV, a communion, or what my translation says, a participation in the blood of Christ. The bread that we break, is it not a communion or participation in the body of Christ? We, though many, are one bread and one body, for we all partake of that one bread. Observe Israel after the flesh, so the ethnic Jewish people. Are not those who eat the sacrifices partakers of the altar, or participants in the altar? What am I saying then? That an idol is anything, or that or what is offered to idols is anything? Rather, that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons and not God. And I do not want you to have fellowship with demons. You cannot drink of the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the Lord's table and the table of demons. Or do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? So what Paul does is he picks up on the language of Malachi chapter 1, where Yahweh's contrasting the failed animal sacrifices of the Jews with the pure offering of the Gentiles, and it calls Yahweh's altar there the Lord's table. Paul's saying the pure offering of Malachi chapter 1 is the Eucharist on the Lord's table. And again, St. Paul is contrasting the failed sacrifices of the Jews with the pure offering of.
So he's juxtaposing he's juxtaposing the language with Malachi chapter 1, where it says the nations will bring this pure sacrifice, and he's referencing the blood of Christ and the body of Christ in the bread.
Yes.
Oh, that's very cool.
And what he's doing,
I've never heard that before.
What he's doing is he's contrasting the failed sacrifice with the pure sacrifice. But the difference with what St. Paul does, unlike what the Lord did in the Old Testament, in the Tanakh, is that Paul also throws in the pagans. You caught that there, where at first he says, are not the Jews participants of the sacrifices? And then he brings in the pagans, and he says that if you're worshiping a pagan if you're worshiping a pagan god and offering a sacrifice to a pagan god, you're participating with demons. So what's the contrast? When you offer the Eucharist to the Lord, you are participating, you're having fellowship, you're essentially becoming one with the Lord, right? You're worshiping him, your full mind, body, soul is directed towards him. Okay. Now, let me think. What was the other thing? Okay. And then in Hebrews 13, verse 10, this is the last point of the argument. In Hebrews 13, verse 10, if you want to pull up that one, brother.
Hebrews
13, verse 10.
13:10.
Yeah.
And let me share the tab.
This is so cool.
Yeah.
I'm getting so nerded out. Anyways, we have an altar from which those who serve the tabernacle have no right to eat from. So who's the ones that serve the tabernacle? It's the Jews in the temple. So we have an altar from which those who serve the altar in the temple have no right to eat from. So what's so fascinating about this argument is that elsewhere in the book of Hebrews, it says Jesus' sacrifice is the once and for all sacrifice. It's the sacrifice of all sacrifices. There will be no more sacrifices.
And then he refers to this as the altar that they eat from.
Yeah. So in Hebrews and all over the New Testament, it's quite clear there will be no more sacrifices. However, Malachi prophesies that there will be more sacrifices. So how do we reconcile this quote-unquote contradiction? It's because the Eucharist is the same once and for all sacrifice of Christ in a different form.
Represented.
What I like to say is that Jesus dies once for sins. He dies on the cross once for sins, but his body is continually offered to the Father in the Spirit.
Yeah.
And we get to participate in his once and for all sacrifice. And the Protestants believe this in some respect. They believe we still get to access the cross. They believe we still reap the benefits of the cross, but we take it a step further where we get to participate in the sacrifice of the cross.
Oh, that's really cool. Thank you for showing me that.
Yeah,
I've actually never seen that one before. Let me close this down.
Just one last thing, and I'll shut up. And also, this shows that when you have a what do you call it? An atheist scholar, they say, well, Jesus cannot be God because he doesn't receive the same sacrifice as God. Who's the Lord of Malachi chapter 1? It's Hashem.
Right.
Who's the Lord of the Lord's table? It's Jesus.
Right.
So Jesus receives the sacrifice of Malachi chapter 1. Jesus is Yahweh. Jesus does receive sacrifice. He receives his own body in the form of the Holy Eucharist, and the Father, the Son, and the Spirit all receive the sacrifice.
Yeah. I have some people here, I don't agree with the Catholics on the Eucharist. That's fine. That's wonderful. But at least we can all respect each other, right?
Yeah.
That's good. I understand. Look, like I said, I came to this very intellectually, and I understand that there are different reasons why people think what they think. I don't think that somebody that disagrees with me is an idiot for disagreeing with me. They have the reasons why they came to the conclusions that they came to. My issue is not with people that differ on belief from me. My issue is with people that are intellectually dishonest. People that will lie and distort even their own traditions for the sake of the polemics and then pretend like they didn't do it afterwards.
But this was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I was rambling. I
know. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I hope you'll come back on. I hope you'll come back on again.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for letting me up, Ash. God bless you.
Bye. And then I got somebody waiting here. The guy from before. Going to just quickly read some of these super chats. Thank you very much. You should make more social media accounts. Spread the word. I do not intend to have any social media accounts. I just don't think it's prudent for me to do. Don't want to do it for all kinds of reasons. Mostly just I think it'll just take up too much time and be a distraction. And Eric, Catholic Christian, thank you. Thank you so much for coming and joining. And to the first guy, Jesus said before Abraham was, I am, and they picked up stones because they knew he said he was Yahweh. Yep. I didn't think it was even necessary to get into that because I thought he was being dishonest, the very first guy. I just wanted to let him run himself in a circle to eventually admit to being a polytheist. I could see where it was going from the get-go. Maybe I also had the visual element that you guys didn't have. Catholic just means universal. It's Orthodox Catholic faith, one church before split, not in the Elzit way. Okay. And why do so many Catholics hate the symbolic monolithic Jew? Is there something to it beyond the base human hatred hijacking the Christian faith? Not sure I understand the question, or is it maybe more loaded than I understand it to be? But I'm not sure I have an answer for that. And we got one more here. Shiba Dog saying, hey, you, greeting joyfully. I think that must be a sticker. That's probably a sticker. Thank you so much. And then I want to bring... Oh, and there's nobody in the thing with me? It sounds so quiet. Okay. And David, are you back?
Yeah, I'm trying from the computer this time.
Okay, so what were you trying to say there? What were you trying to get at?
So basically, first of all, like the Christian, not only the Catholics, but all the other form of Christianity, they've done many horrible things to the Jewish people,
right?
And historically, and another concept is that how many times an idea have to be tried in many different shapes, so that you can see that it's not working as well as it should be. In the same way, like probably you know about this. You know, so principle of the Muslim faith is that they should win wars and get over and get their empire to get bigger. And if they are not actually winning, then in a way is like going against their same faith. Christianity, in the same way, um, should be in like is have been tried so many times, and so it got so much corrupted in so many different variation that to me I don't understand how can you can from those two reasons how can a Jew become a Christian. For I granted to you the idea that between the Christianities, personally would decide to be Catholic because it's the first one, but at the same time is the one it is the one with the most icons and with the most difference from Judaism.
I don't think the Catholics have more icons than the Eastern Orthodox, but
I don't know them as well. I
Right.
live in Rome, and
Right.
like I see Catholics every day, so I know them very well.
So there's two points here. Okay, there's why would I become a Christian when the Christian world has abused the Jewish people, and the other one is Christianity's become corrupted. So I don't think, first of all, that the Catholic Church has been corrupted in the sense of its theology or its beliefs or the core doctrines being corrupted. I think there are bad people in the Catholic Church. I think if you ask somebody who understands Christian beliefs and theology, they'll tell you there's probably more bad people than there are good people in the Catholic Church. But that doesn't mean that the theology is wrong or that the Catholic Church is spreading false beliefs. We can't point to. And then for the second question, there's all kinds of. Sorry, give me 1 second here.
Yeah.
Just gonna take. Okay. So, and then as far as the Christian world abusing the Jewish people, right? First of all, we look at a lot of different incidences. There's different groups that are doing the things that they're doing, right? So as I mentioned before, the Cossacks claiming to be doing something in the name of Jesus killed thousands and thousands of Jews and also thousands of Catholics. Not as many as Jews, but thousands of Catholics, including priests and bishops and Polish Catholic clergy. So it's also which people are you referring to, right? And also, are we going to say that the if we say that the blood of those people at those people's hands rests on the entire church, then you would also have to say that every Jew is guilty for the early Christians that were killed, right? Which is obviously absurd. But again, I don't think that the Catholic Church, Orthodox churches, many Protestants at different times and different places in history have done awful things to Jewish people. That's not the stance of the church, and that doesn't mean that the church is wrong in their theology or their beliefs. Does that make sense?
How is that not the stance of the church? In many ways, after let's
can
like,
you hold on? Can you point to me to a Christian doctrine that says go kill Jews?
Not go kill Jews, but may convert them and other things. And I don't know. I can speak about experience about people that spoke to me. I don't know, maybe in Italy, maybe in other European countries, but even online, you can see so many different Christianities be aggressive against the Jews, and but it's not even only that. I think like one of the point I did not explain myself well enough. So
Right.
the Cossacks, they were following one Christianity, and they were fighting against the Catholics and the Jews. In the same way, the Catholic in Spain that were doing the Inquisition were following Catholicism, the Spanish take on Catholicism, and they were doing their same thing too. And the Romans, similar behavior, and in even like. And
you're saying different groups have done bad things at different times, right?
Yeah, and all of those institutions in the history, in some way they got corrupted, and in some way many bad people got in power, and I don't understand then how after 2,000 years that the Christianity exists, that what they thought they would bring.
So you're explaining almost why I chose Catholicism specifically of all the groups, because Catholicism is preserved, in my opinion, and obviously we're not going to get into a debate about it here, but I believe that the Catholic Church has preserved what the early Christians did in terms of how they practiced and did things and worshiped God.
100%.
And like, I don't think that the church is free of corruption. Nobody in their right mind would argue that.
Yeah, but that corruption extended so much time in so deep, so many different variation in so many different takes, so many different people. Is like at what point someone have to say I quit, or at what point is not like
if we take that attitude to its natural end, you couldn't be a human being, because everything that you're part of is evil. In that sense, I'm not saying it's really evil. I'm saying in your worldview, everything is nothing is worth being part of ever, because there are bad people everywhere.
No, it's not like that. Why it's like there is a goal of Christianity. There is a goal into the Jesus idea.
What is the goal of Christianity?
The goal of Christianity is to have the second coming of Jesus. Is to have like the Mashiach again, and is to make every single person in the world to become Christian. All of those are the goals, for my knowledge. Probably you know way more than me.
I think you should read up on what Christians believe before making that statement, because I don't think any of that is exactly accurate.
This is what they tell me that they believe.
Right.
Like if you see online, if you like a Jewish person, what they believe. A Jewish person believe mostly that you have to live the best possible life.
Which Jewish
following
person?
the rules and
which Jewish person? Which Jewish person?
Most of the Jewish person.
Rabbi Jonathan Sachs of blessed memory, or George Soros? Which Jewish person?
Probably both of them. Jonathan Sachs thought.
Jonathan Sachs, you're talking about people that are opposite ends of belief.
I know that they are opposite ends, but in the same way, they follow their belief and they follow the way of life, and they.
George Soros doesn't follow anything to do with Judaism.
It's not important if you follow Judaism or you don't follow. I'm Orthodox, but I think there is no like the idea that there are more than one Judaism. For me is I don't understand it. Is how it doesn't make sense. Like if a person
you have some extreme people in the Chabad community, let's say, and this is obviously not most of Chabad. There's like the 3 or 4 people that think that Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson is literally God. And then you have people that think that Chabad in general and all of Kabbalistic ideas are heresy. So there's obviously not one Judaism, right?
But those two ideas can be in the same umbrella.
They can't. That's because you're under a pseudo-ethnic covenant that binds people that should not be bound together.
Why not? That is the power of Judaism.
Okay. Well, what about Gentiles? What's Gentiles' role in their relationship with God?
Gentiles can have the same relationship with God we have.
I agree.
Is regulated in a different way. At the same way, something really.
What do you mean it's regulated in a different way?
To get a relationship with God, a Jew have to follow some ideas, have to be some kind of a person, and those traditions that we follow to have this relationship is God.
So I want to present
not,
you. I want to present you an idea, okay? And I hope that I hope the language barrier doesn't come involved here, but because it's a philosophical argument. One of the fundamental arguments for the existence of God, it's not the best argument, but it's one of the fundamental ones, is the moral argument for God. Okay, which would posit that the only way we have an objective universal standard of morality and ethics would be if there was a universal standard from an objective moral lawgiver. If that lawgiver, God, gave humanity an objective universal moral standard, it would have to apply to all peoples equally, especially considering man, according to the Bible, was created in the image of God, which refers to rational thought, reason, our ethical compass, our being bound by morals. So in order to argue that there's a different covenant from Jews and Gentiles and how we relate to God and which laws morally we're bound to, you'd have to argue that Gentiles are animals to stay consistent with the Bible.
True.
You would. No, logically, if Jews and Gentiles have a different covenantal relationship with God.
No, because the moral argument is implying that in Judaism, we think that the morals come just through God.
Right.
In Judaism, we don't think that they come just through God. God give to the Jews some moral laws to follow, but at the same way, like we are reading the parasha of Noach this week.
Right, but
right,
I understand what you're saying. There's the Gentile laws and the Noahide laws.
The Gentiles law. There are the world laws.
The world laws, the Noahide laws, and then there's a special laws for Jews.
Not the Noahide laws, like the word of how the word works.
How do you decide what's ethical for a Gentile?
They decide themselves.
So there's no moral argument for the existence of God that justifies that.
Like studying Judaism, the amount I studied is not that easy. The answer to that question.
No, it's very easy actually. If all men from Adam are created in the image of God.
What do you mean image of God? What image of God means? Like that is the issue.
Reason and rationality and free will and being morally bound universally.
Reason, rationality, like reason.
Right. We're rational creatures that have free will.
Reason got through the story of Adam and Eve. Reason, they arrived to it just eating the prohibited fruit.
No.
Yeah, like they did not know what was the difference between
knowledge of good and evil, but they are created in the image of God.
Reason is knowledge of good and evil.
Right, but they are no.
Rationality is the ability to discriminate between something that is true to something that is false.
Something true to something that is false, not something that is good to something that is bad.
Bad and good are true and false at the max on an extent that is a lesser right. extent. True right. and bad and
so
good
all,
is the same.
All I'm trying to get at is that if you believe that that the world has a universal moral standard, that we can appeal to that objective moral standard to say this is bad and this is good, and human beings that are bound to it because they are created in the image of God, in order to argue that there's a different covenant for one group for eternity that is only to that group, you'd have to argue that the other group are animals because they weren't created in the image of God.
I don't think that your opinion might have a source, probably because I'm
using a scriptural.
Logically, is not the only solution.
I'm using a scriptural verse that tells us that man is created in the image of God. So that's my data
point. Image of God, it doesn't mean necessary image of reason and other things.
What does it mean?
Is not only that.
What does it mean?
There are so many different meanings. It's not only one. Image God. There are even people that they say that God is a man because it's image of God. So there is the old guy.
No traditional stance in Judaism or Christianity believes that image of God means literally looks like God.
There are some people. I'm not saying that traditional stance.
Right. The traditional stance is that it's the reason and morality ingrained in a human being. The natural theology that can point us to knowledge of a creator, that can tell us that there's good and bad, that's ingrained in us.
Right? Some time ago I heard an idea that the difference is the reason is a very complex topic, but I don't understand how that links to Catholicism.
I didn't say
How?
links to Catholicism. All I'm saying is that if man is created in the image of God, and part of that, I'm not saying the entirety of it, is that we have a universally binding moral code. If the covenants are different in what rules need to be followed, then that would mean that one of the groups is not human.
Why not? Why not? Like if Bilam was
You
not
can say
human.
why not.
Bilam was not human. Bilam was
No,
the second,
no. Listen to
second
me.
biggest prophet after
No,
Moshe.
let's clarify. I don't think that. I don't think that there's one group that's not human. I think that they're both equally
Judaism doesn't
created
think
in the
so.
image of God. No,
Most
that's
of Jewish
that's
people
why
don't
Judaism
think
is
that.
logically incoherent, because it posits a worldview where some people are less in the image of God than others.
It's not true that Judaism thinks that the covenant is a responsibility. Is not the natural law of the Jew to follow
some
the
people
covenant.
have a different ethical and moral responsibility and reason and rationality for doing those things than another group of people.
If you
But
have a
they're all
doctor and
created in
you
the
have a
image of God.
lawyer, if you have a doctor, you have a lawyer, and the doctor have the responsibility to save another person's life, and the lawyer have the responsibility, and there is the plumber, the lawyer, the electrician, and all the rest. The doctor have the responsibility of something. The electrician have the responsibility of something else. It's not like if the doctor have that responsibility
Okay.
means that the lawyer cannot
Right,
cure
but
himself.
there's no verse in the scripture that is part of God's revelation that says that lawyers and doctors are created in the same image of something. In the
It said
scripture of the Bible,
human being.
right?
Bnei Adam is everyone.
Human beings, all of us are created in the image of God. We all do the same respect and basic decency,
100%.
have the same rights, have the same relationship capability with God.
Agreed, 100%.
Which means there cannot eternally be two different covenants. Otherwise, one group wouldn't be human, because then they're not created in the image of God the same way that the other one
I'm
is.
you in that point, because we can be the same. But
so if part of what creates our relationship with God is being created in the image of God, is people in the image of God, then if we have different covenants, we're different images of God.
No, it's not true, because the following Judaism is not becoming as much as possible to God.
You've heard the other guys that came on even saying that eventually the clearer picture in the Bible is that all people will come to worship God the same way from a biblical standpoint.
Okay, that's amazing, but right. Is like
so Judaism doesn't have a coherent view for how that happens.
It doesn't have, because Judaism role in the world is to stop a Judaism place. It's not to try to evangelize other people.
Right. It's like it's an ethnic covenant with different rules than for the rest of the world.
But the rules.
So the other people are not human because they have a different covenant with God.
What? It's not like that.
I know it's hard. It's hard to get.
Let's speak about like the Indian faith. Okay, there are some.
No, let's not.
Why?
Because it's completely off topic. We're talking about the scripture of the Bible. We're talking about the scripture of the Bible.
Yeah, but they're following in their way of living. They are following many precepts that are in the Bible, not even knowing about the Bible.
I don't care who follows what precepts in the Bible. I'm talking about the obligation that God has given in a covenant to people. If it's eternally for one ethnic group, then the other groups are not created in the image of God because they have different moral values bound on them for eternity than the other group.
What if they received another covenant?
So God, who's universally binding the whole world to an ethical and moral standard, binds different people differently?
Why not? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
But God says we're all created in the. But God says we're all created in the image of God. So if we're all created in the image of God, which means we have the universal binding on all of us of God's objective moral standard, then having a second covenant means those people are not human.
I am understanding your question, but your question is outside the realm of the possibility of answers for the Judaism faith.
It's not outside the possibility.
Yeah.
Judaism is inconsistent with the Bible in that sense. Modern Judaism is inconsistent with the Bible.
The ancient rabbis, they thought that the Gentiles were subhuman?
No, I don't think that.
Okay.
I think that modern I think that's the necessary conclusion of modern Judaism. I don't think Jews believe that. I don't think Jews think about it.
Jews doesn't think about this thing.
right?
Two.
You could convert to Judaism, and then you're somebody said in the comments, you're a potential human then.
You are potentially.
What I'm
I
saying
use
is,
that match.
what I'm saying is, there's no coherency between Judaism's view of humankind and the Bible, because if it's eternally an ethnic covenant, then one group of people are created in the image of God and universally bound to it, and one group is not.
But you are saying that
It's
not in the
philosophically
Bible.
it's philosophically incoherent to say that two different groups of people, both created in the image of God, have different moral standards.
But this is what your idea is saying. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is what it like. I never heard someone say that about
Right. I'm presenting a philosophical argument that you haven't heard that invalidates Judaism as
no,
a
it doesn't
worldview.
invalidate
Yeah,
Judaism.
of course it does.
It invalidates some fringes of Judaism that are crazy.
No,
Like-
no, you're missing my point. No Jews think that Gentiles are not human. That's not what I'm
Okay.
saying. They just
Okay.
haven't thought about the ramifications of that. In order to believe in Judaism, philosophically, you'd have to think that some people are only potentially human, because all people are supposed to be created in the image of God. You're not following the logical chain. We're getting to
Okay,
the one
so
point, and then
let's
because
make-
hold on, we're following a logical chain, and because you disagree with what I say, logic goes here, and we don't follow it anymore.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Okay, so you don't want to accept the philosophical argument because it disagrees with your worldview. That's
No,
fine.
I don't accept the philosophical argument because to me it doesn't make sense on the base of the how most of the Jews I know view at the laws. Like
Right.
the laws.
Most Jews believe that there's a covenant for Israel that's a unique responsibility for Israel, and Gentiles have a general moral code that's for the whole world. But if
But
all
they-
people are created in the image of God,
You know
and that is part of,
if
and
you
that's
make-
part. You're not listening. You're talking to say your next point before you've heard what I have to say.
Uh-huh.
If the covenant for Jews is this special covenant, and then the rest of the world has this covenant that's a different moral covenant, if all people are created in the image of God, and that's part of what binds us morally from a philosophical perspective, then what you'd have to say is that by having a different covenant, they're not human. Now, I'm not saying Jews believe that. I'm saying that's the necessary conclusion of a two covenant philosophy.
Okay, I am understanding your point. Okay, let's make the example of a vow. Okay, in the Torah it is written that if you make a vow, then that is a new law on you. Okay, and another thing I want to bring is that in the Torah, like the
You're
rabbis,
not addressing my point. It also says that man is created in the image of God, in the image of likeness of God.
Many of the
You're not addressing the point that I brought here.
Yeah, I'm addressing
Philosophically.
it, but it's a very complex point. It's not like you can address it in 5 words.
You
like
can address that in
you
5
want
words.
me to say either they are animals, or you want to say that, no, there is no logic, so I have to be Catholic. This is what you want me to say.
No, you see what you just did there? I never said you have to be Catholic. I never
Yeah,
told you
but-
what you have to do.
No,
I never gave you
I
any
know that
moral
you did not,
implications.
but this is what
Hold on.
people
But there's something
understand.
that I will not tolerate, is that you put words in my mouth.
But you are
Do you
putting
want?
words
Do you
to my
want?
mouth
Hold on.
too.
Do you understand me?
Yeah,
Do not put words in my mouth in this conversation.
but you are putting words to my,
I
in
gave
my
you
mouth too.
I gave you a philosophical argument for the necessary conclusion of your worldview.
I'm
I
trying
didn't
to
say you
ex-
said that. Do not put words in my mouth. Have a nice
Okay,
evening.
perfect.
Welcome. Can you hear me? BK? BK? Oh, are you there? Coming on. All right, I think he's coming back. So for everyone watching, the guy says that people in Italy, in Rome, tell him he has to be Catholic, and he has to be Catholic, and he has to be Catholic. They tell him all these things. Jews are bad, and he has to be Catholic. But then he comes on here. I never told him once he has to be Catholic. And he said that I told him he has to be Catholic. So I wonder how many people were actually telling him that. I wonder how many people were actually saying it to him in the past, because he just claimed that I said it to him. Okay. BK.
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep. I'm sorry. I was using my computer, and it seems like my mic wasn't working.
No worries. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
I found you through God Logic and
I gotta thank him.
Rabbi Eduardo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you see my chat on the YouTube. I was the one who said, I was heartbroken that you went to Rome.
Okay.
What do you
I
mean
won't take it. I don't get too offended by that stuff. You're entitled
fine,
to your opinion.
I just have a question. So, I have a hard time try to love Jewish people. I know, you're a Jew.
Yeah.
So, I'm just want to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
Thing that I have a problem with. So maybe you can answer.
Sure. I'll try.
Do you know who Barry Wise is? She's a free press. She's a Jew. She does like a she's well known like a journalist.
Okay.
She recently did an interview defending what's going on in the Israel with the Gaza and everything. I know, is that true that majority of Jewish people doesn't consider when you become Messianic Jew, see them as a Jew anymore?
You're saying the Israeli stance on Messianic Jews, like politically?
Yeah.
The vast majority of Messianic Jews have no problem immigrating to Israel as Jews. Sometimes, I'm trying to think of what a circumstance would be. If they feel like there's no real connection between you and Judaism at all, and you're just trying to use, because you have to understand, when you immigrate to Israel, it's not just, oh, I get to Israel now. There's a whole bunch of like benefits that come with it and so on. So
Okay.
if they feel that somebody who is not really from a Jewish background is co-opting that for use of, federal funding and so on and so forth personally, then they have a problem with it. And there are people that come from like, oh, their great grandparent, technically speaking, they might be Jewish, but they've never been Jewish. They've never been in the Jewish community. And then they say, they openly then say that they're believers in Jesus. And so there's doubt cast on whether or not their documents for whether or not they're Jewish are in fact legitimate. That's where you see a problem. So it's people shooting themselves in the foot by not knowing how the Aliyah system. You can have the same thing with Orthodox Jews as well.
Okay. But whenever I see the video about that, I think you mentioned earlier about the I can't even think of it right now. A Soviet.
Yeah.
Whenever they go to ask people, he talks about, he's a Messianic Jew, and ask people that is he Jewish or not. A lot of people says, he's not Jewish because he, believing Jesus as a Messiah.
Yeah, people have told me that too. Yeah.
Okay, so whenever I see that, it kind of rubs me in the wrong way because I'm I believe in obviously Christian.
Right.
Like, why is that though? Like, because like Jewish people said you can believe whatever you want. Even you believe in like a Judaism or like if you don't believe if you're atheist, you're still a Jew. But whenever you believe in Jesus, they say they're not Jew anymore. Is there a reason?
So let me ask you something. So you're a Christian, right?
Yes.
Can I ask what denomination you belong to?
I'm actually it's actually a long story. My parents used to be a Seventh Days Adventist church, which is a cult.
Right.
And then I became Protestant, and I'm now actually looking into Orthodoxy.
Okay. So what do you say to Protestants? You're looking to Orthodoxy, so I'm going to go to the Protestant side.
Okay.
What do you say to Protestants who say about Catholics and Orthodox who are Trinitarian Christians that they're not really Christians because they worship idols with the icons?
I think there's a misunderstanding though, because whenever whenever you go to Old Testament in the temple, I mean, I don't know about the statue, if they have a statue in the temple or not.
Right.
But I know for sure
there definitely were.
There were.
Yeah.
But I know there was a lot of imagery, like
right.
like
there's carvings and angels,
right.
cherubim, cherubim.
Right. So I mean, I think the Protestant, like their error is like, because they're sola scriptura, they literally read the text.
So instead of getting too much into the debate of, I didn't mean to go there with it, but you have an issue with Jews saying that other Jews who believe different things from them are not real Jews, but you don't have the same.
No.
You don't have the same issue with Christians that say that about other Christians.
No. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I think that a lot of Jewish people says, if you're atheist or even believing like a Buddhism, they're still a Jew. But whenever, they believe in Jesus, they seems like they're no longer Jew anymore.
Right.
So they just pick out one religion, I feel like.
Right. I think that if you look at a lot of families, when somebody wants to do something one way and the other people want to do it the other way, and they don't get their way, and they throw a tantrum and they say, "I hate you, I never want to see you again," and they don't talk for 3 years.
Right.
Right. That's what's happening.
I got you.
It's people are scared to lose what they know, right?
That's true.
They're scared to have what they know undermined.
Right.
Jews have a certain way of life in Israel, right? And to see Jews who believe in Jesus all of a sudden, like that's scary for them, right? My wife brings up here in the chat, there's a Hebrew rite in the Catholic Church in Israel. Did you know that there's a lot of Jews becoming Catholics in Israel? There's a Hebrew rite a Hebrew rite approved by the Vatican.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So there's tons and tons of people becoming Christian in Israel today.
Okay.
And this is why I try to tell people with the Israel-Palestine conflict issue that are like, oh, Christians, this, Christians, that in Israel, right? There's thousands of Orthodox Christians who are loyal Israeli citizens, but they're not online, right? Fighting about stuff on Twitter, right? And so you don't see people in the everyday and how they're actually living, right? Online we get sucked into it, right? That's why somebody asked me, why don't you get more social media and spread your message more? I might spread my message more, but I'll also go a little more crazy.
That's true.
So you're looking at things through a very narrow perspective of what hateful people online are talking about.
I got you.
Right. I see a lot of that, and I know that a lot of people are misguided, and then there are people that are stirring it up. Okay.
Right.
There are people that are incentivized to drama because it gets them their views. So when I make a video, right, I use a certain title and thumbnail to get people to click on the video. Doesn't necessarily indicate exactly what I'm going with, right?
Right.
But when people live their whole life like that, where everything is drama and attention, that's where that problem comes from. So are there Jews in Israel that really don't like Christians? Right? Yeah, for sure. Right? Are there Christians that don't really like Jews for no other reason other than they heard bad things about Jews? There's also that. Right?
Right.
The Jewish world is tiny. Israel's a tiny country. Like the idea that how do I put this? There's for the population size in Israel, it's one of the fastest growing Christian communities in the world. And Christians have a lot of protections in Israel and in Jewish communities in America and around the world that they don't necessarily have in other places. I think if you ask any Christian, would they rather be a Christian in Nigeria or Israel, I think you'll get a very, very 100% answer in one direction.
Right. I mean, I really appreciate, all the content you create. Recently I watched that the history of Judaism, from like a first temple to everything. That actually was, teaching me a lot. And I'm glad I found you and the Rabbi Eduardo. Whenever I see you guys' content, before I didn't really see the New Testament is continuation of Old Testament, but because I watch your content and his content, it actually make my faith a lot stronger because Christianity is truly like continuation of Judaism.
All right, God bless. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. Okay. How's everyone doing? Should I keep going for a while here? Is there anyone else that wants to come on? Or should we call it a... Yeah, it was a good chat. I think he was very receptive and a pleasant dialogue. I think we disagree on some things, but that was a very nice conversation about a very potentially controversial topic. Maybe we'll save it for next time, because I think we'll probably get into Catholic doctrine stuff for a long time then, and it's getting late. Maybe more on the topic of the video, but I do want you to come back on, and I'll have you on again for sure. Okay. Yeah, if I'm tired calling, I appreciate that. Let's see if there's any. I think I have some super chats here. Super chat from Stargazer: the Divine Council is a Christian biblical concept, not polytheist. Your guest twisted it to deny Jesus. Look up Michael Heiser's Unseen Realm. I will look into that. Thank you. Yeah, whatever he was saying, the first guy was not in line with anything reasonable or rational. And then from John Lee, Shalom v'baruch achi. Hope that's right. Yep, you got it right. Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. I think we're gonna call it a night here. Stay for the cool outro video, and I'll see you all next time. Oh, wait. You came back on there. I put you on the screen this time. Can you hear me?
Hey, brother, are you still live or did you drop it?
No, still live for about another minute before I drop it.
I didn't want to take too much of your time because I know you said next time. But what that last guy just said is actually the next topic I wanted to talk to you about was Michael Heiser's Divine Council. I came to the stream late, so I have to hear how the other guy apparently butchered it. It's as simple as this: is that there's only one God, Yahweh, but after the Gentiles rejected Yahweh at the Tower of Babel, Yahweh gave the Gentiles over to a group of angels, the sons of God, and the sons of God became the fallen angels eventually, and they became the gods of the pagans.
I see. Okay.
So it's not that there's multiple gods by nature. There's only one eternal God. You know what Heiser says? Heiser says Yahweh is a Elohim, but no Elohim is Yahweh. What he means by that is that when we hear the word God in today's day, we think of divine attributes, omnipresent, all-powerful, all-knowing, and so on and so forth. But Heiser's like, no, God in the ancient Jewish mind just simply meant not of this world, right? As a spirit not of this world. It was only Yahweh that had these specific attributes we think of when we think of the word God. So only Yahweh's all-knowing, only Yahweh's omnipresent, only Yahweh's eternal, only Yahweh's all the other omnis, so on and so forth, right?
Yep.
But actually, I started a YouTube channel, but that I didn't work hard on it. I only posted 2 videos. I only have like 40 subscribers, and I got lazy. But I did do a presentation on an Orthodox Brothers channel. His name is Nick Norelli, and I showed how the Divine Council can be used to prove the doctrine of intercession of saints that the Catholics and the Orthodox believe in.
Yeah, I would love to have you back on when it's like a more Catholic-oriented stream of things. Yeah, absolutely.
I know you might be tired and you want to get going. No worries. I just wanted to say, Heiser has some awesome stuff. The one thing, I'll get out of here. The one thing that I disagree with Heiser about, and he's a Trinitarian brother, is he takes Genesis 1:26 as Yahweh speaking to the Divine Council, and I a million percent disagree with him on that.
I have to look. I literally don't know much about it, so I have to look into it.
Okay, no worries. We'll talk again. You have my email in the private chat.
I do. Yeah, I saved that.
All right. Thanks, brother. Have a good night.
Okay, I got one more guy here that has come on. If anyone is still watching, I hope I didn't lose everyone saying that I'm going to end now. Okay. Zach, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Wow, wonderful.
How's it going?
Good, very good. Thank you so much for all you do. I've listened with quite a bit of interest in a lot of your videos and stuff.
Thank you.
One thing that I've been really digging into is the distinction between what is divine and what is man-made. And there's this piece in the Bible that that kind of focuses on that. Is Deuteronomy 4:2 says, do not add to or subtract from what I command you, so that you may keep my commandments. And also Deuteronomy 12:32 reiterates that. And so when I look at rabbinical Judaism, that to me it looks like they've added to or subtracted from God's instructions. That's not of this world, like the previous caller said. And and if you look at John chapter 8, verses 23 to 32, there's a very interesting passage there where Jesus is rebuking the Pharisees, saying, basically, you are of the world, I am not of the world. So he's making this distinction between, what is truly divine and what is man-made.
Right.
And so anytime you modify God's instruction set, I like to call it like instruction sets. Everything has an instruction set. Like rabbinical Judaism has an instruction set that is a modification of God's Torah. Roman Catholicism is an instruction set that is also a different modification of God's Torah, because they have like the Ten Commandments and stuff like that in it, and then you can just go down the line. All these things are a modification of God's instruction set for all people, which like I really like what you were talking about earlier. It's for all people, and so that was a really interesting argument that you made. Making, like there's
Right.
the Noahide laws for the Gentiles and God's law for the Jews.
Right.
And
Yeah, the point that I was trying to make there was that if we all are created in the Imago Dei, in the image of God, and part of what that is morally binding us to a universal moral compass, right?
Yeah.
Then if somebody is a human who's not in the same kind of potentiality for understanding that moral code or connecting to God through that moral code, then by default they're not human.
Right.
And so that's the inconsistency of a worldview that says that there's an eternal, unending thing for this ethnic group that does not apply to these people unless they hop over and somehow join it.
Right.
It has to be something that was originally for all people, is for all people. That's what's eternal, is for all people.
Yeah. And there was, I can't remember, was it Isaiah 56 or was that one? It's let no foreigner say, how does that go again? So let no foreigner say that I don't belong to God, or God is going to forget me or something. But to those who love God and honor His Sabbath and so forth, He will be in my house of prayer or something. He'll be in my. I'm butchering it, but
right. There's multiple passages that talk about all the nations of the world coming to bow before God, to worship God, right?
Yeah.
In Jerusalem. All different kinds of terminology for that all throughout.
Yeah.
Right.
So especially like Ezekiel 36 through 37 is just like a wonderful, talking about how the house of Israel and the house of Judah will finally come back together. So you got the divorced, lost sheep of the house of Israel and the house of Judah that was not divorced, although they were kicked out eventually, but they were never actually divorced. So they are recognizable today as a people. And then you have the lost sheep of the house of Israel, who it was prophesied that they would be too shattered to be a people. God divorced them, sent them away, and they dispersed into all the world and forgot who they were. And so this is this mystery that Paul was talking about. It's like, who are these lost sheep of the house of Israel? And he talks about, having them, that when they follow Jesus, when they come to faith in Jesus, that they're grafted into the cultivated olive tree, and which represents Israel. I mean, I guess Israel.
Yeah, I think what's important to remember there is that those people being found or discovered or discovering who they are, right? It's not an ethnic lineage rediscovery. It's coming back into that relationship with God.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Beautiful. And then I come back to the John 17. John 17 is like a super important. That's like the only detailed recorded fervent prayer of Jesus. And he talks about how he says about his disciples, I think it's in verse 14, he says, they are not of the world, just as I am not of the world. And I thought, wow, and then he goes on to say, and even to the people, who are not, who believe in me through their message, the disciples, those who believe in me, that they would be one as we are one. I and the Father. And
can I ask what's your background, or what?
In what way?
Meaning, or what group are you part of? What's your religious belief?
I believe the whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation is true and relevant for all people who wish to love God and keep His commandments. Okay. And serve Him, honor Him, and there isn't really any kind of particular denomination, because I'm in my fourth reading of Genesis to Revelation right now, and it's just been an incredible journey. I mean, it's just these light bulbs are popping off all over the place. But the thing that about Jesus's prayer in John 17 is, he says that they may be perfectly united, and there's only, because you think about it, I mean, there's 30,000 denominations, and it's anything but perfectly united. It's everyone's got a different instruction set. You got Methodism, Catholicism. You got all these isms, and each one of them has a different instruction set. They're distinguishable from each other. That's how it's when someone faithfully follows this instruction set. Oh, that person is a so and so. Right. And so I follow God through Jesus, through the example of Jesus.
That's good. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing that.
Thank you.
And yeah, I hope you'll continue watching, and I hope you'll come on next time as well.
Yeah, thank you. Right. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.
Yep.
And I got one more here, and then I think I'm going to call it a night after this. Let me read one super chat that came in. Thank you so much. From ESP Solo. Ephesians 6:10 through 12 fits into divine council view. There are principalities. Missionaries talk about things that seem very territorial in some places. Not exactly sure. Is that referring to that topic that he was discussing before? I have to look into that. I don't know much about it. And then, okay. Will, can you hear me? Will, are you there?
Yeah, but I can't really talk right now. Maybe we'll have to give me
Another
a few
time.
minutes or another
No,
time.
I'm probably going to wrap up here, but another time. More than welcome. Thank you.
I'll just quickly say I just saw this now. But
Okay.
I don't want to go back to something you already talked about, because I just joined now. So it's probably not fair, but
What?
just
Well, I can tell you if
just
it's something we discussed already.
just like give me the question that because I just saw the title, so maybe rephrase
So
the
we've got into
yeah
a whole bunch of different topics, but essentially, my question is, from a biblical standpoint, if you don't believe in Christianity, from a biblical standpoint, why couldn't Jesus be God?
yeah. So I mean, I think you said you're aware of like Chabad, right? You come from
Right?
a
I come from a
more of a
Chabad
Chabad
background.
background. Yeah, yeah. So it's definitely not like Martin Buber talks about this in his books that there's a unitary tendency in Judaism, which obviously you have like a whole debate in academia, but basically in different streams of Jewish or yeah streams of Jewish thought, and then different periods of Jewish history, you have this unitary tendency that is expressed, and I think Hasidut he would contend because he taught Hasidut that he would say that the you can find the ideas of God is everything, right? What the Baal Shem Tov said, Allah is Gott, Gott is to Allah, that Einod Milvado, right, is in the Torah, that God is one, Hashem Echad, means that God is everything, and God is everywhere, right? If God is omnipresent, even Christians say God is omnipresent, right? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in hell, you are there, right? This
Yep.
idea that God is everywhere and everything. So this is you can find this in the Torah, and it's always been there. This idea that God is everything, and it's more of like an probably people think it's more of like an Eastern idea, right, rather than a Western idea.
No, so I would say that
yeah.
you can find the idea that God is omnipresent and omniscient, but it's very clear that there's a distinction between God and the created world. I don't think there's any
Yeah.
biblical standpoint to say that the things
So
are God.
okay, so yeah, so that's where I would say from a Jewish perspective, and I'm speaking as a rabbi and speaking as a Jew, that does not really mesh, and you'll understand if you are familiar with Chabad, like that does
Yeah.
not mesh with
Right, but
that perspective.
so where is the source for that prior to the 8th century?
So like I said, Martin Buber explains and he discusses this, and
So you're giving me a contemporary author citing tradition that goes through 1800 years.
Right.
But the
Right.
question is
So
from the Bible, right? So what you're saying is Jewish tradition as we know it would allow for these concepts.
right, but I'm saying is that you can actually find these concepts in the text in the Torah
without seeing it through a
and
rabbinic lens.
yeah, I think so. I
So
think
can you
Einod
point to me one of
Milvado,
those
is
texts?
I give you Einod Milvado. There's nothing
Right.
except God. There's nothing.
But it also said that God created those
Israel.
things in the beginning. So there is a created order that is not literally God. Right.
Then, but like there's also all the different names of God, right? And different names represent different aspects of God. So
again, tell me that from the Bible.
No, I'm just telling you, in the Torah, it uses different
in Jewish
names
tradition.
For God. So
in Jewish tradition, the different names represent different aspects, and in Kabbalistic thought, it's one thing. In the Talmud, it's another thing. Sorry.
Yeah, but from my experience, like the system to me makes a lot of sense.
Can we just establish something
though?
Everything you're telling me is a Jewish tradition interpreting the text, correct?
No, yeah, but then you have to ask, okay, well, who who's the most reliable source to interpret?
Okay.
You know,
What
the
is the
Jews gave us
earliest?
the Bible, so
What
they
is
have
the earliest
they have
Jewish?
the tools and the language to understand.
I would argue different. I'd say the Christians preserved
What's
the
the
Bible.
earliest Jewish what?
What's the earliest Jewish text that isn't the Bible?
No, the earliest Jewish text that isn't the Bible, you said?
Yeah.
Ooh. I don't.
You got to
I
know
think-
this. Come on, you're a rabbi. You got to
I think
know what
that-
it is. You have to know because it's the first time that the oral Torah was ever written down.
Oh yeah, the Mishnah. You're talking about the Mishnah.
Okay. So when was the Mishnah written and
But that's not the
compiled?
oldest Jewish text.
That's the oldest Jewish text outside of the Bible that's considered
Yeah.
orthodoxy in Judaism, that has any philosophical weight.
You said Jewish text. You didn't say Orthodox. Because
Okay,
there's,
what's
like, the
right?
Qumran,
Right.
and there's
You're
the
right. You're right.
Dead
So what is
Scrolls.
the earliest?
Those are older.
So what is the? Well, so I'm talking about what is considered orthodoxy in Judaism. So there are some earlier Jewish texts. Do you know what one of them is called? Or collection or library of texts?
So actually, I actually do have to get going, but I just wanted
So I'll make it very brief. I'll make it very brief.
Yeah.
The Jewish writings of the New Testament precede the Mishnah by at least 150 years in some cases.
Yeah, I know that.
And a lot of the statements in the Mishnah and early Midrashim citing Gentiles stealing our Torah and translating into Greek is a little bit self-incriminating, don't you think?
I didn't understand, but I like I said, I have to go, but I wanted to get into the New Testament with you because I think the New Testament also advocates the Hasidic perspective, but it's not a new perspective. It's the perspective that's always been in the Torah.
Would that explain why
But
the Alter Rebbe's family was so influenced by Eastern Catholicism that his son became an Eastern Catholic, Ukrainian Catholic?
That's very interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallel between Chabad and the New Testament. I'm not talking about.
I agree. I agree. I just think they got it wrong, but I think there's a lot of similarities.
I mean, they both believe in a Messiah that died. Many do Messiah that died and will come back, you know, and be the Mashiach. So yeah, no, there's tons of parallels. But I want to get to the parallels.
I think the Alter Rebbe drew. For anyone watching, the Alter Rebbe is the Ishner Zalman of Liadi, the Admor Zaken, the first rabbi of Chabad. If you read the Tanya, there's a lot of classic Judaism in it. There's a lot of Kabbalah in it, but little hints here and there that are very, very Eastern Orthodox and Eastern Catholic, considering the area of the time and the influence. And then his son becoming Eastern Catholic, I'd say that there's a lot of case to be made there. But
yeah, I'd like to continue the conversation with you. So maybe I'll send you an email or something.
Send me an email. I would. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have to go now, but I'd love to continue.
Yeah, I would also. Please do.
Thanks for doing this. Take care.
All right. I think that is it for the night, everyone. Stay for the very cool outro.